Yes, yes, y'all. It's another Saturday night. Therefore, it's another Saturday night shoot the breeze. Let me first say good evening to Daily Affirmations by Pauline, who checked in on me last week. I apologize for not having the show last week. I had to attend to some other matters uh, last week, Saturday. So I apologize for not being here. Drop a one for me if you guys can hear my voice over the digital airwaves of YouTube. Drop a one for me in the chat if you can hear my voice loud and clear. Again, my apologies for not being around last week, but we're here this week. So let's make the best of it. You know the deal. I like to let people know what we're discussing tonight. So we're going to be discussing a Black American male goes missing in the Bahamas, and the Bahamian government gets blamed for being slow to act. We're going to look at Black music and the idea of gatekeeping Black music. Do you think Black music could be gatekept better if African people globally return their music to its spiritual roots? We're going to discuss Pan-Afrikanists. We say Pan-Afrikanists often lament industrialization, but experts say that low birth rates is inevitable when a country develops. So we're going to talk about that tonight. We're going to talk about Project 2025, which I saw recently. They renamed it because it was getting such widespread attention. So let's talk about that tonight. We're going to talk about Palestinians. I'm going to talk about how we'll just leave it at that. We're going to talk about Palestinians tonight as well. I want to remind you guys to join the Discord. The link is down in the description. You can post your topics too. Also, if you've posted topics on the Discord that I haven't gotten to that you really want the panel to discuss, hit me a DM. Send me the links to the topics that you posted. I'll post those to the next Shoot the Breeze once you identify them to me. For everyone else, I'll get to all the other Shoot the Breeze topics as soon as I can. Shout out to the Pro Black Perspective in the chat who dropped a one for me. I appreciate that. And Anthony McPhail is out there saying peace. He says he'd like to join in the few. You're absolutely welcome to join. The link is pinned to the top of the chat. Looking forward to hearing you discuss these topics with us. Black Steel is in the back of the stream, waiting to come on. I'll let you up in a second. In the meantime, what we're going to do is start the show officially. On the other side of the official side of the show, I will introduce any and all of my panelists, as well as drop Shoot the Breeze topic number 1. So you guys do stay tuned.
You are listening to the Bitter Medicine Podcast on KWAZ Radio. Welcome to the Bitter Medicine Podcast, where it's all about Black empowerment. Our show focuses on Black news and entertainment, arts, science, economics, history, people, and strategies that uplift, empower, and motivate Africans within the diaspora. And now, your host, whose favorite color is black, Goku.
Welcome back to the Bitter Medicine Podcast. I am your host, Koku. Just want to remind you guys before we get the show rolling that this show is part of a podcast network called KWAZ Radio. There are other shows on the network you are invited to tune into.
This is D Webb with the Harsh Reality Podcast, asking you to tune in where we tackle the news of the day that affects our community, only on KWAZ Radio.
Peace, family. This is Oni, inviting you to listen to the Pro-Black Perspective, where black problems are addressed with black solutions.
Greetings, fam. Tune in to The Learning Curve with me, the revolutionary matron on KWAZ Radio.
You are listening to the Bitter Medicine Podcast on KWAZ Radio.
Also, make sure to tune in to Brother Bakari's podcast, the Forecast Radio, as well, and the Consider Cheek Show. Oftentimes, Consider seems to be on the Forecast program on a weekly basis, but check out all of them. And last but not least, make sure you guys subscribe to and checking out Kofi the Black Critic, who's new on the network as well. We have some more announcements to make in the next few weeks, so just stay tuned for that as well. In the meantime, let me introduce my panelists this week. I appreciate these guys immensely. Black Steel, how are you this week?
I'm doing great, Coach. We missed you last week, man. I was out for the last 2 weeks, so I'm ready to get into it today.
Appreciate you for coming through. Let's welcome in our brother from the Pro-Black Perspective podcast, Oni. Oni, how are you this week?
I'm cool. I'm back in the U.S. I don't know how you guys afford this shit. It's so expensive. So I'm going to see what I can do to get out of here.
I know, right? I know. Thanks for being here, Oni. Welcome back for the time being. With that said, last but not least, let's welcome in our boy Buana this week. Buana, how are you?
I'm good. I'm glad Oni is back in the United States. So he can't eat home cooking meal until he gets back to Africa. With that. So enjoy the McDonald's.
Buana, your sound is real choppy. Really, really choppy there.
Okay, I'll go on the laptop. Man.
Okay. All right. So that's Buana. Buana will be back on in a second. Without further ado, man, Trig Happy said the Matrix in terms of Buana's sound, so it's not just me. Without further ado, man, let's just jump right into Shooter Breeze topic number 1 this week. This is an interesting one here. I've been keeping a little eye on this one for a while. Shooter Breeze topic number 1 says, a Black American male goes missing in the Bahamas, and the Bahamian government gets blamed for being slow to act and incompetent. Slow to act and incompetent. Of course, this came with a link that's going to take us to YouTube. Let me just share my screen. So here we are. Make sure the screen is right. Here we are on YouTube. We're going to watch this video and then we'll discuss it.
All right, we want to take you now to Chicago. The family of Taylor Casey, who has been missing in the Bahamas since the middle of June, just held a press conference. They are seeking help from the FBI in their search. Let's listen.
This is so hard. Taylor, we love and miss you so much. Taylor, today is your birthday, and we all just want to say happy birthday, although it's not so happy because you are not here with us. The pain I felt 42 years ago while birthing you doesn't compare to the pain I feel on today with you missing out of our lives. The pain, the hurt, the agony is practically killing me. And not just me, your whole family, your friends, and all of your associates. When I cry so hard, I have to hold my eyes in because I feel like every blood vessel in them is gonna burst and they're gonna pop out of my head. I miss your visits, bringing me flowers, your calls. I miss your voice. You're encouraging me. You're coaching me. You're going on outings with me. And oh, how I miss asking you if you have any other friends to call because you would call me so much. I knew you did have friends, but you just like calling your mother. Oh, how I just yearn for that call today. I wonder where you are. Are you okay? Are you in danger? Are you sick? Are you hurt? My nights are sleepless with worry about you. I am lost without you. We all are. Your sisters and brothers and nieces and nephews and cousins and friends, even people you don't even know, Taylor. And explicitly, your dear friends from the LGBT community, whom the Lord Jesus has used to create and wholeheartedly support the Finding Taylor Casey squad. And I do mean squad. I do mean squad. Taylor, we love and miss you so much, and we need you back in our lives. God, please make it happen. We are relentlessly doing everything possible in our power to bring you home, Taylor. And as God is our strength, we will never stop looking and searching for you until you are found. We will never stop. And if you are in a position to help us find you in any kind of way, please do. We love you so much. Love, Koki. That's a nickname Taylor gave me, Mom. And I just want to say, please help us find Taylor.
So, folks, what you're watching here is heart-wrenching press conference given by the family, and there you heard the mother of Taylor Casey. She went missing on June 19th in Nassau in the Bahamas. It would have been her birthday. There was a break in the case. The police in Bahamas say they did find a cell phone and a journal they believe belonged to Casey. They found that evidence in the water. She was there in Nassau at a yoga retreat on Paradise Island. And it's important for us to bring you the family's pleas for help. They are asking the FBI to help. Recall that a number of years ago when Natalie Holloway went missing in the Caribbean, it was front page news on every newspaper, on every broadcast network. Sadly, tragically, when it comes to missing Black and brown women, the coverage isn't just the same. But we're doing that here at CBS News 24/7 because it's such an important story. And you can just hear in the mom's voice her anguish, and all the family members there pleading for the FBI, but also awareness to come to her daughter's situation. So we're going to keep on that story right here at CBS News.
All right. Quick point of contention. I personally dislike when the Bahamas is referenced as just Bahamas. It's the Bahamas. It reads strange to me. Missing in Bahamas. No, it's the Bahamas. Well, I think we're one of two countries that has that article before the name. This said, should be stopping one says a Black American male goes missing in the Bahamas, and the Bahamian government gets blamed for being slow to act and incompetent. I guess that video didn't really get to the slow to act and incompetent part. But of course, we have someone here on the panel who's on the line who can tell us a little bit more about it. So I'm going to start with Buana. I'm going to end with Buana probably too, but I'll start with Buana just to give us a little more intro to this topic, if you don't mind. Buana, go ahead.
Oh, okay. Can you hear me? 1 2 1 2. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Clear.
Okay. So this gentleman came to the Bahamas, and he was a part of a yoga retreat. This is what's not being said. And the yoga retreat is not in Nassau, in New Providence proper. The retreat is on an island off of New Providence called Paradise Island. That island is extremely restricted in terms of local Bahamians going over there just to relax, recreate, do anything. Usually on that island, if you found over there as a local person, you probably are a person who is either working there, and there are very few residents on that island. That's first and foremost. Second of all, he was a part of this retreat run by this Indian guy. Now, I don't know who this Indian guy is. He's some kind of Swami, and the group seems extremely cultish. So they rented a little small area, right? A little small area where they did yoga kind of things. I don't know what actually goes on there. But actually, this guy is not the first person to go missing being a part of this Indian cult. There was a white man who seemed to have went missing as well. Now I don't know what the psychological makeup of this particular gentleman was. You know, they keep on calling it her and he and she in the media. If you go to the Bahamas and say, look, my daughter is missing, the police are going to look for a woman. They're not looking for no black dude. So I'm confused because we don't have the whole pronouns thing going on. So you can't go. I'm hoping that they're not going to the police officer and say, my daughter is missing, because the black police officers are going to look for a woman. This is really not a woman. This is a male. Well, I'm not going to even get into that. So, so this guy goes missing, and it seems like this lady wants to call the FBI. And I'm saying to myself, why would you call the FBI to come to the Bahamas? The FBI has no jurisdiction in the Bahamas. The Bahamian government has to allow the FBI to come into its borders if they wish. But why go to the FBI? You don't think that we have proper investigative police officers who is going to research and figure out what's going on with your son and the terms of why he disappeared? I don't know. Why don't you even go to the retreat itself? Go speak to the Swami, because there's videos of him seeming very uncomfortable. You know, very uncomfortable. You know, around the gentleman seemed very uncomfortable within this retreat kind of cultish kind of thing. So if he's disappeared, you know, first and foremost, you have to allow the wheels of the Bahamian government, constabulary, the police force, to run their investigations in terms of what may have happened to your son. That's first and foremost. Second of all, I don't know. First of all, I don't know why he is on this retreat. I don't know what his psychological makeup was and state was. He may have even committed suicide. Who knows? But see, a grieving mother will always get an heir. But, you know, for listeners, you must not only be compassionate in terms of what mama may have lost, in terms of losing a son. We don't want no one to lose their sons. But we have to look at the situation objectively as well. This man seems to be confused. Anything can happen. There are many people who commit suicides going on these kinds of lavish retreats, these, you know, to these yoga-esque. There's so much background to establishing who this cult was. Why did he go to Paradise Island? Who these people were before you start to blame the government and want the FBI to come there. The FBI has no jurisdiction. We have our own police officers. You know, you can't just come into territorial borders of another man's country to do any kind of police investigation, even though it's your citizens. You have to permit the government, a functional government that's currently functioning, to do its investigation first. So to suggest that the FBI should take over, for me, that's an insult. For me personally, you know, if you don't think the black man can do it good, well, go find some black LGBT investigative officers to go down to the Nassau and do it yourself. You know, the FBI would make you think the FBI. Well, I guess the FBI will be more investigative because they have more technologies and things like that. But we are a country, so you have to allow us to do our investigation first. You can't just bring police officials and authorities from other countries to bombard an independent country just because you lose a son. It doesn't work that way, sister. It doesn't. I know you think the white man ISIS go, but it doesn't work that way. But I'll stop there and let the other brothers go.
Thanks for that, Buana. Yeah, that's some of the background. There in the chat, the forecast radio says, "Oh damn, it was a dude." It says missing woman. Yeah, that's the kind of the irony of it, to be honest. One of the reasons why it's getting such a spotlight too is they're pushing this LGBTQ shit on us down there too, because you know they're gonna want to try to make this a hate crime. So that's an interesting aspect too. Black Steel, what say you to this?
I think well, the interview with the mother didn't really reveal too much. But I would say to Buana's point, everything he said is correct. But this is, I just want to say as a counterpoint, this is a grieving parent, right? She's not thinking logically. She's not thinking, with the presence of mind of somebody who hasn't lost a child, right? So just to say that point is that she's not, in her mind, she just wants her child back, right? So that's why she's talking about the FBI, all that other stuff. Because at this point, she's hysterical. Like, I don't know what it's like to lose a child, to not know where your child is. I could pick up the phone and call my son, hey, what you doing? Matter of fact, I got a text from him just now, right? So as a parent, I could understand her hysteria, right? I can understand why she's freaking out the way she has. I don't think it's any slight against the people of the Bahamas or your law enforcement system, but I think it's just as a parent. I don't know how long the person has been missing, and it's probably a person who is non-binary. That's kind of where we're getting the confused with the pronouns, So this person is non-binary. I don't know how long they've been missing, or anything else like that. But I think that just her concern about her child's missing, not coming up. I do think the investigation should be focused, of course, on where they were last seen at. Where was this person last seen? Where were they? Why were they? They went to a retreat as a swami, some sort of yoga retreat. They might have done some type of drugs. It might have been maybe the person overdosed and they might have disposed. I mean, we're just speculating right now. So Pauline said June 19th. That's over a month. So today is July 20th. Over a month. You have not heard from your child. So yeah, I'd be freaking out too. I'd be going out to the Bahamas myself, and I'd be moving furniture if necessary to get someone to find my kid. So I understand her frustration. I really do. I don't know what level of investigation is being done. Are they talking witnesses? I heard they found a cell phone. I'm assuming they haven't found any remains yet. So I guess it's just I see it as a tragedy. W. John non-binary. That's funny. Yeah, there are people who don't.
Oh, Black Steel. He's 40, by the way. He's 40.
Well, I listen. I'm laughing because that's probably what I probably would say the same thing. That's funny. But no, it's just somebody who just doesn't identify themselves as either one of the two genders. It's a long story. I don't want to get into it. I had to take a class on in college. In one ear out the other. Anyways, yeah, I don't know as far as what is it that she feels the government of the Bahamas should be doing that they're not doing. That's kind of what my question is. What is it that she feels that they're not doing that they should be doing? Do you not feel they've questioned enough people? Is anybody under suspicion? Did they just let these people go back home? Because the question is, if they go to this retreat, they killed your child and went back home, it's going to be hard to extradite them back into your country. So I don't know what it is that she feels like the Bahamian government should be doing. So without that information, I'm just going to say I'm sorry to hear about your child missing. It's a tragedy. Anytime a parent has outlived their child, assuming the child is not dead, a month missing you and heard from, I don't know. It don't sound good, but my heart goes out to her as one parent to another. Don't be so hard on the Buana. She's cracking up, man. She doesn't know where her child is.
Oh, so I understood, Black Steel. Understood. Yes.
Yeah, everything you said is absolutely correct, but just have a little grace for her. Hope they find something. To me, the fact that you don't know is worse than knowing that they're dead. I would rather know something than not know anything at all. So I'll leave it there.
Yeah, that's a sober intake, Black Steel. I do appreciate that sober intake. I will say I don't know if this person is non-binary. I think there's a trans person who went to an all-women's retreat. I just want to point that out. I think there's actively a trans person who went to a woman's retreat which in itself can be problematic sometimes too. I'll just leave it at that.
Before
I got
before we go to Oni, the Caribbean is not the best place to be LGBTQIA. We got to remember where we are. Other countries are not as forgiving as the United States, so you got to be careful when you travel sometimes. I'm not saying I wish any harm to this individual, but you got to be mindful of where you're going to, because the Caribbean is not the best place to be on that, different gender type stuff. It's very dangerous over there.
Yeah, and they've been pushing that. They've been pushing that agenda on us for some time now, going back to early 2000s. Rosie O'Donnell tried to dock a cruise ship down there, and folks wasn't having that shit at the time. So yeah, you gotta know where you go into. You know what I mean? I don't go to Scandinavia. You know what I mean? You gotta know where the fuck you're going. But anyway, Oni, what say you to all of it?
Yeah, so that was a shocker. I mean, I was like, this dude seemed funny. All of a sudden, it's like his daughter, right? Anyway, 42 years old. The mother is, unfortunately, he recruited his mother into pushing this agenda on the Bahamas. And that's what it is. It's unfortunate, but what they're looking to do, I mean, they get into this, she said the LGBTQ squad is going to leverage this kid's death, or not kid, it's grown damn man's death, in order to push LGBT reform in the Bahamas. Why would this dude go into an all women's retreat? And I don't understand why all women's retreat is being run by an Indian man. That doesn't make any sense, right? If that's what I heard, but the whole thing is, yeah. Some this is going to, like, the mother is being used by the LGBT community, which the son was a part of. Why he chose to go into a woman's retreat. I mean, I understand the psychosis, but that's the trouble with this with this community. What I would say is, I want to hear what the story is. It seems like I agree that the lady seems desperate for who might have killed her son, right? But I kind of want to like, and I understand that too. It's like if your son is killed somewhere, you'd want to know, you'd want to know the details. You want to know what happened. You want to know if it was, like why it was. Now, it sounds like it's because he was a damn man in a woman's retreat. But the fact that there's no body, the fact that there's no killer, and the fact that there's no story, again, that could be disconcerting. But I mean, I feel like common sense is, don't be a damn man going to a woman's retreat. Like that's just be common sense. The trouble with the LGBTQ community is that they're trying to tell us, no, you could be a man in a woman's retreat, and they're putting resources behind trying to get people to trying to convince people around the world that, yeah, women like men belong in women's retreats, when men don't. You can't do this identity stuff. So yeah, it is like, unfortunately, the guy, like, he's being set up to be a martyr for some issue that doesn't make any sense. It sucks that he lost his life in pursuit of some sort of madness, some sort of psychosis, some sort of thing that should have been treated, but but his mother encouraged him. And you know, it's the whole play stupid games, win stupid prizes. You know, as far as I'm concerned, it's you know, you should not you should not do this. That's all.
Can I
I
go?
appreciate it.
Can I
Oni.
go? That,
Yeah, Black, do that.
Oni, of all the fucked up things you've ever said, that might be at the top of the list, man. That really might be at the top. What agenda is the mother pushing? Her child is missing. Whether you agree or disagree with the transgender ideology is really irrelevant at this point. The child went overseas. She doesn't know where her child is. What agenda is she trying to push? That's a question to you. What is she trying to push?
No, she said that she's working with the LGBT community squad. So what they're gonna do, like what happens in these situations, is that they make martyrs of people. You know, so this you know, this is, you know, unfortunately there are people playing a bigger game. You know, so the kid is not a kid; he's 42, right? So the 42-year-old's, you know, he's more than likely dead, right? You know, if you find his phone and you find his, you know, whatever, you just didn't find his body. Now, maybe he's alive, maybe he's not, you know, and maybe he's alive as possible, right? But the reality is that when you have an organization behind this lady, right, that organization is pushing an agenda. You know, they're not doing this out of the goodness of their heart, the kindness of their heart. Most of them probably don't even know this person, right? And the only reason why they would know this person is because he and them are pushing this LGBT agenda. So she's being used by this community. It's like it's you know, it's in our faces. You know, obviously, you know, you could say, hey, she might be innocent of it, right? You might say that she doesn't know that she's being used, but you can't say, hey, look, there's a large LGBTQ. She even emphasizes squad that's behind her, and you think that they don't have an agenda ahead, that they're
No, I
not
don't.
putting their research.
I don't.
So you think they just want
because
this kid? I mean, this 42-year-old man, for what?
because they're a part of the LGBTQ community.
Exactly.
Okay. So they're looking for them. Now, she said this squad, she didn't mention any type of organization. She didn't say whether they're part of GLAD or anything else. She's probably referring to her child's friends who are also in the LGBTQ community. Because let's be honest, there's a lot of violence, and a lot of times when whatever the fuck, come missing, nobody really cares. So this is just really putting a spotlight more so on a missing individual. I don't believe there's any ulterior motive to spread homosexuality. I honestly believe it's just somebody who's just missing, and they just want to have him found.
Well, the thing is this: she did say that there's a lot of people that don't even know him, that he doesn't even know. So it's not like it. So she tells us these are not his friends. She tells us this is the LGBT emphasis squad coming at this thing. So we can't say, like, if she said, hey, it's all your friends and family, that's different. She tells us this is not your relatives, these are not your friends, these are not your family. This is an LGBT movement around your missing status, right?
So
There's a larger game at play.
You don't think that, okay, so for a community like the LGBTQ community that is face discrimination, that when they do come up missing, nobody really cares about them, you don't think that other people who are in that orientation would care more? Just from what you're saying, you don't really care. You know what I'm saying? So to me, just like saying, you said fuck around, find out. You really don't care. So I think in situations like this, of course, this community is going to care, even if they're not related to them, because truth be told, nobody else really gives a fuck. So to me, I can understand why the LGBTQ community gets involved, because if they don't, nobody else will. And I guess that's kind of what the mother's
It's not
concern
even
is.
that, though. Look, here's the thing: you're talking about a person, like you're talking about a man dressed up as a woman, going to a women's retreat. There's so many things. Like basically, you like if you're a man, right? It is absolutely dangerous to impersonate a woman. Like because you don't know whatever other man you might be involved, trying to involve yourself with, what they're going to do as a consequence of you deceiving them. This person, like this is a matter of play stupid games, win stupid prizes. It's not a matter of, oh, I don't have sympathy. It's a matter of you're doing a deceptive style. This is
We
not
don't know,
like
but only we don't know that's the cause of death. You're just assuming.
we don't know,
You're
but that's the
assuming
thing.
that this person was impersonating a woman.
They
that
are
all of a sudden
impersonating a woman. I'm
happened.
not assuming that.
So
They are
why are you
impersonating a
saying-
woman.
Okay, but I'm saying you're assuming this chain of events. This person was impersonating a woman, and they got caught up somehow. We don't know
dude.
that.
What do you mean we're assuming? The dude is impersonating a woman. It's clear as
but
day.
Is that a cause for him to die? Is that a reason for them
I'm
to be
telling
murdered?
you that is risky behavior. Yes, that's risky
You
behavior
know
all
what?
over the planet.
You know what? I'm gonna tell you. I think I I deal with my share of cross-dressing people, right? I do. I think it's ridiculous. If I'm being honest with you, it looks ridiculous. However, that does not give you a right to take their life, right? And assuming that was the reason why their life was taken, it could have been a robbery. It could have been a drug overdose. At this point, we're just throwing stuff at the wall to see what sticks. We don't know. We don't know what bearing their transgender identity had in their death, outside of our assumptions. So the only thing, that's why I'm saying, what is it that she feels the Bahamian government is not doing, irrespective of her gender identity? Okay, whether or not they're a male, they want to be a woman, they want to be a dinosaur, I don't really care. Whatever malfunction they may have had, right? They were a human being and they deserve their life. All right, period. So I would hope that they're being transgender is not an excuse for the Bahamian government to not do the full investigation they should be doing.
Yeah, I don't think it's a matter of the Bahamian government didn't do a full investigation. Like I said, they found the dude's purse, but that's it. I mean, again, we didn't see this video. Did not demonstrate. This video was just the woman, the mother of the 42-year-old, saying, "Oh, I wish my son was found." And I don't disagree that a mother would want her son to be found. It's just a matter of, like, from what you were asking me, yeah, from you were asking me, yeah, it looks like this individual is going to be a martyr for a larger cause. I'm not saying that. I did not say, oh, I think that I did not say that I would go out and kill an individual, but like, we live in the real world, right? In the real world, like, I can tell you guys a story, and there was a story, in fact, of my uncle. He said that one time he took some lady home, and then somebody he thought was a lady home, and then come to find out it wasn't a woman, and he just ran away, left his car. And everybody laughs at him, like, why you run and leave the car? Why did you drive off? But some people run away, some people don't. Some people stay and confront. And I mean, obviously, some of us, some people might prefer the story of, run away, leave your car, or run away, leave them, whatever. But some people don't, and that's just the real world. It's not, cut and dry. So a person missing their possessions far away from their possessions found, their body not found, that's indication of something. Again, it could be suicide, but it's an indication of something. And I don't know what else you'd want, but it seems like there are people that are going to make this into a martyr situation, when it really doesn't have to be. It's like, there's just some things in this world that you just shouldn't do, which is like deceiving people, lying to yourself. These are things that you shouldn't do. That's it.
I will add to that martyr point. I actually I agree with Oni on that point. People use particular people use these kind of things all the time to piggyback an agenda. I'll give an example. KW Don 7 or someone who has a good memory of history in the chat might be able to expound upon it. But I remember there was a white boy here in the States back in I want to say in the early 90s. I heard about it when I was still home, and it was still ongoing when I came here. A guy named Matthew Shepard. This was a gay white kid who was killed in a cornfield or some shit like that, or found dead in a cornfield. They made that a big deal.
I remember that story. I do remember.
Made a big
Yeah, they tortured him to death. They really hung him up on like a barbed wire fence or something for days and beat him. So yeah, I remember that story. That was the story that made violence against LGBTQ a hate crime.
Right.
Yeah, before it wasn't considered a hate crime, but that's what made it become hate crime legislation against violence against LGBTQ. Yeah, I remember that story.
Yeah, but guess what? The real story is that guy was involved in drug deals and shit. That's the real story. The real story was that guy was a drug dealer and got caught up in some shit, and they did him bad out in a cornfield, hung him up on barbed wire and all that kind of shit. But no one talks about that. That came out. That's in books and shit. That came out. No one talks about it because it was used as a springboard to get those anti-violence against gays bill done. So people do use these things to piggyback their agenda. I'll just add that. But before we move on, though, let me hear what Buana has to say. And I also want to deal with something Trigger Happy asks in the chat, too. Buana, what do you want to add any last thoughts here?
Yeah, I absolutely. I am now that we have dealt with the issue of mom and the fact that she's gonna be a parent no matter what. So you have to look at that situation in a very circumspect way, as Black Steel was saying. But I am concerned because currently, right now, there are several Bahamians missing off of the streets of the Bahamas right now. So yes, she is a grieving mom, but we have several grieving parents on the streets of the Bahamas right now. They have billboards up with missing people in the Bahamas. So for this particular case, the commissioner of police found himself on television saying that he will leave no stones unturned in trying to find this American tourist. Now I'm concerned because I don't believe no humans are better than no other human beings. So she is a special case, first for two reasons, probably because I'm looking at it. Because she's an American citizen, that means she gets to jump in the front of the line. Because there are other cases, ongoing cases, where Bahamians need to get found as well. So why does she jump in the front of the line? Maybe because she's an American citizen. Maybe because she's an LGBT person and you don't want the Bahamas to be perceived in a certain way, like anti-LGBT. So this is getting special attention as opposed to the current Bahamians who are currently missing off of the streets of the Bahamas, who may not be LGBT, who may not, because they are not American, because they don't have the influence of the American media behind them. So now their cases get sidelined or sidetracked for this particular person. I am concerned about that because there are no special people. So why does she jump in front of the line? Why does she get this special attention from the commissioner of police? But all other people who are on the streets of Bahamas currently missing, I don't see him getting on television saying that he will leave no stones unturned in reference to finding these people. I am concerned about that big time, because like I say, I don't think that she should jump in front of the line. Yes, she is a grieving mom, but there are other grieving moms. Her tears are not more priceless than any other moms, in particular Bahamian moms' tears who missing their child off of the streets of the Bahamas no more right now. Also, as Black Steel was saying, we can't jump the conclusion on the reasons why this particular child went missing, or even if she is dead or whatever's happened to her, because we referencing someone might have harmed her. What about self-harm? What about someone who actively commits suicide on the island? There's that as well. I mean, that's off of the table. What about the people who was around her? Not just the Bahamian populace, but how about the white folks, the women and the men? Because there are many men at that retreat. Make no mistake, who may have harmed her as well. The good white people who harm and murder people in the Bahamas. There was a case just a little while ago where this white lady was plotting the death of her husband, and she came to the Bahamas to do it. So there's just different. In looking at this, I think that it's too early to call it. It's too early to say what happened to her. Let the investigation run its course. But I am concerned in reference to why she is getting special treatment. And I understand why. You know why? Because they don't want the Americans to say, oh, they don't care for LGBT people down there. We're going to withhold our dollar and stop going to the Bahamas. So now she gets to jump in the front of the line because they have economic interest to protect. You know what I mean? So I am concerned about that big time. But that's what I really wanted to say. I'll leave it there.
I appreciate that, Buana. In the chat, Anthony McPhail says that it's called the Matthew Shepard and James Byrd hate crime bill. They had to throw a brother's name on it. I didn't realize James Byrd was included. Was James Byrd a gay black man? Because I remember he was.
No, he was the one. He was the one. You know, the one in Texas. They drove him behind a truck. So
Yeah.
he wasn't homosexual. It's just the fact that they included the protections for black people as well as homosexual people as well with the hate crime bill. But no, he wasn't gay.
Okay. I want to ask you guys to follow up with what Trigger Happy is asking here. But before that, let's welcome in our brother Anthony McPhail to the chat. Anthony, how are you this week?
Hey, how you doing, Coco? What's up, man?
Good. I'm great. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing, man. Man, that's a tough topic right there, man. That's a tough topic right there. I caught the last end of it, but I was enjoying the conversation, though, man. I'm like, okay, this is a position I take, man. I hate what happened to that brother, man. You know what I'm saying? I mean, if anything happened, we don't know yet. But if something happened to him, I hate what happened to him. But at the same time, though, I do agree that some people in the LGBT community will use this. Will use something like this. To further their agenda, man. I mean, and you know what? And the irony of it is, it was this week that the United States government. Now check this out. It's slightly off topic, but not really. Okay, in Burkina Faso, the brother Ibrahim Traore over Burkina Faso, we know all of the things that he's doing right now, Well, just recently, this week, the United States government, just they trying to bring up some kind of sanctions or something against his government, but guess what? They say that he's discriminated against the LGBT community because they just passed legislation in Burkina Faso that outlawing homosexuality. And so now they are jumping on him for saying that he discriminated against the LGBT community. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I know it's not exactly the same thing as what we talk about, but it's tied into it though. What I'm saying, it's an agenda that's being pushed. You know what I'm saying? And in that case, okay, you got an African leader and an African nation who don't want to go along with the program no more. You know what I'm saying? So we're gonna find something to get on him with. And then you can lay there and throw that LGBT thing in because they know one thing in Western society, in Western countries. In Africa, homosexuality, Africa and the Caribbean, that's something that's like, it's kind of taboo. Our people in them places don't really play that shit. It's some people who do, but I'm saying they don't really play that shit. But I'm saying what they're doing is using that kind of thing to appeal to black people in the West. Black people who were supporting Traore last week when on his stance against France, against imperialism, to say, oh, now we're gonna throw this LGBT thing in, and that it's a considerable number of black people here who support that bullshit. You know what I'm saying? And saying they're using that like the kind of like well, yeah, we supported him on that, but you know, we kind of not like this here. But I'm saying, I think it's an agenda, man. It's not. I'm not saying all people, and like I say, I sympathize with the mother, you know, because she lost her son, or you know, or if her son is lost, her son is dead or whatever. But I mean, I think we can't be naive about it. People will use this as an agenda, as a springboard for their agenda. I leave it like that.
Absolutely. Thank you for that, Anthony.
Yeah.
In the chat, Trigger Happy had brought that same thing up. He said this topic definitely related to the recent developments happening in Burkina and the incoming propaganda they are going to push on the AES. It's always a trap in coercion. So he mentioned that earlier too. So thanks for that. Also, he asked this question. You guys could tackle this in any order you want. You ain't gotta wait for me. When it comes to this type of thing, transgender, you know, only mentioned it as a psychosis, which it is. Can that be treated? And if it can be treated, how? Or what are the possible ways of treating it? Does anyone want to speak to that?
So, man, hold on. Y'all gonna give me canceled. So, my thoughts on gender dysmorphia is what it's called, gender dysmorphia, right? So, my thoughts on it is this. I believe that many times, especially when you're young, right, people will grow out of it, right? Especially young people, they don't even know what non-binary, they don't even know what a lot of this stuff means. I think eventually they grow out of it, right? But I also feel like people have the right to do with their bodies what they want to, right? So if they wish to have gender affirming surgery or whatever they want to do it. You're not hurting me. I don't feel as if my rights or my ability are being infringed upon. And I'm gonna say this as somebody who works with transgender people. I'm around transgender people. I was on vacation last year and I was in Asheville, North Carolina. And I see this dude with a 5 o'clock shadow, white dude with a 5 o'clock shadow, hairy ass legs, walk around in a pink miniskirt, right? And my son was cracking up. And I said, you know what? It looks ridiculous to us. And I'm not saying it doesn't, but at the end of the day, that's how he wants to live his life. I don't have the right to harm this person. I don't have the right to insult this person, no matter how ridiculous I might think it looks. So for me, if anyone who's underage, you know, psychotherapy for gender dysmorphia, communicate with them. But then at the same time, once they're of legal age, sound mind, what people do with their bodies, you know, I don't particularly like the tattoos above the women's asses, right? But that's what she want to do with her body. I'm just not gonna deal with her. If you want to, you know, if you as a woman want to cut your breasts off,
that's
what you want to do. I think that's ridiculous. But at the same time, I'm not gonna say, oh, you just get, you know, lock them away. You know, people want to have gender affirming care for themselves because I'm gonna say something that's gonna sound crazy as fuck. A lot of heterosexual people have gender affirming care, right? You ever seen where men might be born with what they call gynomastia, where men have breasts, right? They'll get those breasts cut off because they don't want to have breasts, even though they were born with them, because that doesn't confirm their idea of their gender. So they do that. So I think it's ridiculous. But I'm not going to infringe on anybody's right to do what they want to with their body. I'll leave it there. I know I'm gonna get jumped on. I'm ready for the smoke. Let's go.
Oh,
So,
hey, Blacksdale, that's kind of easy. That's kind of easy. Your analogy is too easy. So take that same lady and put her in a third grade classroom where that person has to teach your child. Now she was Mr. Jones 2 weeks ago. She had the surgery. Now she wants to be called Mrs. Jones, and she wants to teach your kid in a third grade classroom. What do you say then?
Keep that shit to yourself. But I would say, you know what? If you want to teach my child, you change your gender identity. First of all, they don't even let you do that in Florida. That's not happening. Ron DeSantis is not playing that. But if you come into the classroom, you change your identity, you know, I probably would talk to my child about it. But as long as you're not telling my kid, hey, cut your dick off when you get of age, then, you know, I wouldn't like it, but at the same time, people do have the right to do with their bodies as they want to.
Let me throw my hand into the ring here as far as the question as far as
First, let me introduce you. We got Kofi the Black Critic who's joined us. He asked an interesting question. I have up on the screen now. Kofi, how are you this week?
I'm doing good, doing excellent.
Okay, Kofi. What are your thoughts on all of it, including the question you asked just now?
Well, I mean, I'm pretty much agree with Black Steel. It's. I mean, I don't really disagree with anybody because everything else is basically just speculation as far as like why this person is gone. But speaking as a parent, and we're all parents, I can understand, the mother's position. Now, there's a saying that I heard: a dirty hand is a helping hand, no matter what. So let's assume again, more speculation. Assume the mother doesn't agree with her son's lifestyle, right? But you have a whole big organization that's willing to help. You're not gonna help. You're not gonna accept their help. It seems like your hate and your xenophobia is greater than the concern for the love that you have for your son. Speaking as a parent, I want to understand. I don't see no agenda being pushed. Now, everything else, when it comes to that, I could see, yes, how this potential tragic situation can be used to push LGBTQ. And I do agree with Juana 100% as far as the interesting take that the media, the Bahamian media and the media in general. So there's a image, Bahamas have to worry about their image and their economy. So all these things tie in. I don't think anything is really wrong or right, but I do feel that this is nothing really that has to do with, as of right now, pushing an agenda. Because let's say if it was an LGBTQ and it was someone else that is, let's say the person was a Black Jew or something like that. I don't know. A Black person with ties to a strong organization. That's why the question I put in the chat is: let's say if he was just a missing American, would this get as much attention? I'm curious to know how everyone would feel if he wasn't gay, if he was just an American, a Black American. Would he get this much attention? I don't think so. But as far as the whole can it be cured, I've been having this conversation for years now. And for people who may think or feel that I'm homophobic and stuff like that, I mean, I used to be when I was younger, because my aunt was one of those people that died from AIDS during the whole AIDS pandemic. And she died and she found out she had AIDS when she had a daughter and married. And she also gave her husband AIDS. And she did not know that this guy living on the down low, right, was doing that. So I have a reason to, but I educated myself. Now, this is usually a mental or a chemical imbalance. Is usually why people will go this route.
and I'll land my plane here when, then you guys can answer the question that I have there. The problem in this day and age, see, back in those days, like in the 80s, 70s, things like that, those were real fucking gay people. The James Baldwins and your Rock Hudsons and all those guys. Those were real fucking gay people because they had to hide it. In this day and age, you cannot treat homosexuality as something that could be a mental disorder because they think that's for some crazy nutty reason hateful. No, you may have gone through some trauma or some sexual abuse or something like that led you to this lifestyle. I know people that if they having a bad relationship, I'm going to jump ship and go to the other gender. Or they're abused and they jump ship and they go to another gender. But no, we can't explore that. We just have to respect your feelings, which is bullshit. Again, gender dysmorphia, body dysmorphia. If you have a girl that's 5'6" and weighs 110 pounds and she says, well, I feel like a fat bitch, you're like, no, she needs to be treated. Someone feels like that, well, I think I don't need a dick. Oh, no, that's fine. Respect it. It's ass backwards. So I was pretty much land my plane there. And to the question to the panel, I don't think this would have got as much as attention if he was just a Black American who's coming to look for him besides the mother. And that's pretty much it.
Yeah. I want to add, I think it's bullshit that people think that the Bahamian government is not looking into this person's murder. They've like the fact that they found his possessions tells you they looked into it. I don't think that. I don't know what else people what magic people think. Like if people think, oh yeah, well it's because it's a transgender, we're just gonna botch the investigation. That's not true. The only people who the thing is that the Americans may dehumanize each other all the time. But then they project onto the world, oh yeah, you guys, are going to dehumanize. So no one's dehumanizing you. They do the investigation, they look for the body, they can't find it. But you think they make it seem like they found the body and then they're like, let's not report it in because that didn't happen. Now we have to remember that in America there was a history of people, of law enforcement and so on and so forth, doing that kind of stuff, particularly to, Black Americans, right? But they're talking about a different country and we have to stop projecting on other countries. So I think the reason why the story is as big as it is because, like I said, they want to do the martyr thing. Because we even heard that when they mentioned somebody else earlier, I think it was like a white lady who was missing in the Bahamas or something like that. They're trying to like the LGBT jump behind it, and unfortunately, or not unfortunately, but the reality of the world is, when big organizations jump behind you, they have it's a broader impact. If you're just a generic Black American or you're just a generic Black Bahamian, if you have nobody, no large organization jumping behind you, the reality is that it's probably not going to be a big story because this is typically routine police work. Somebody gets missing, you look for the person, especially within the first 24 hours, you can't find them. You can't find them. Somebody went through the process of trying to not have the body, or possibly this individual themselves went through the process of not trying to be found. We don't know. But again, my perspective is, you're just living a risky life. As far as Trigger Happy is saying, can it be treated? I don't think it's even though I said it was a psychosis, whatever. The thing with America, it's America's mental asylum bullshit. Okay, in America, we have a real problem with, what they call individualism, or what they call just identities, like identifying with identities to the largest extreme, and we're exposed to this at a very young age. When we see, I remember one of the most impactful speeches I heard in my life was actually some random white woman. I think it was a social worker, came into our class, and we were like a kind of mixed class or whatever, right? Came into our class like third grade or some shit, and was like, the average black male lives to be 18, or something like lives like dies like before 18 or some shit, in this city or something like that, right? And she was trying to tell us, don't join a gang, don't get associated with drugs, joining a gang, getting associated with drugs, those are not mental illnesses. Those are not psychosis. Those are not whatever. Those are things that can be cured or helped or what have you. But people choose to do it, and it is a risky life as well. If you get involved with drugs, that's a risky life. If you get involved with impersonating women as a man, that's a risky life. If you get involved with so on and so forth, and people take risk with those of us who don't, those of us who avoid taking those sort of risks, like we have to look on the outside and say, hey, look, maybe don't take those risks. This idea that, oh well, because there's gonna be some young black youth who are gonna tell you, hey, look, I was born to be a thug. You know what I mean? I'll die a thug. I'm a thug. I'm a thug. I'm a thug. I'm a thug. And they're not genetically predisposed to being thugs. Right? The same with this whole LGBT stuff. Look, they said they were looking for a gene associated with LGBT and they couldn't find it, obviously. Or some people will say, yeah, blah, 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 blah. Regardless, right? The reality is that you can make a choice to, essentially conform to the less risky behavior. You don't have to, and again, another thing about that is that, because I come from back when I was in university, I came from the school of what they call social constructivism, right? Which was the idea that all of this stuff is social constructs, right? But the idea that, oh look, so basically like even masculine versus feminine, these were considered social constructs, right? That is, a man wearing a dress a woman wearing a dress and lipstick and a man wearing pants and so on and so forth was itself its own invention in a sense. So the idea is that you as a man saying, I want to identify as a woman, therefore I'm going to dress like the stereotypical woman, right? That's not something that's genetic. That's literally something societal. That's literally you.
Let me ask you a question. So you're saying that gay people aren't born, they're made?
Yeah, of course. Especially, I'll say this, especially black.
Okay, hold on. That's incorrect, because even animals are gay, right? To me, homosexual. People think homosexuality is this thing that people make a choice, which is a very narrow-minded view, right? There are animals that are gay. There are people that are born gay, right?
And how are you born gay?
Again, your brain is
the same way you're born straight.
No, exactly. but how are you born straight?
Because you gotta understand. To me, homosexuality is nature's way of population control, right? Not everybody's gonna come out the same way.
All right, so let's
even they study it even with every time with science they always study us. The closest thing to us will be chimpanzees, right? Which will be our closest on.
All right, but let's be scientific. All right, let's be scientific. Let's be scientific. Okay, let's be scientific, right? You're not born gay. You're not born straight. Okay.
How? You have to explain that to me.
You're not born. So, all right. So, how many? When you say born something, right? You're talking about infants, right? How many infants do you know with a sexuality?
No, that's not what it means. You can't understand when if you leave someone that had that in my view, from what I know, right? That I'm explaining it to you. Why what you're saying kind of doesn't make any sense, right? That's like saying that's like saying you're born a football player. How you know the kid likes football?
Exactly, you're not born a football player.
Okay, but this is what I'm saying. But it's not that simple. Is what I'm trying to say. If you leave human beings to their own devices, they've been raised in a home, right, which showed love. They didn't demonize anyone. Yes. And they come to this realization by their own devices, right?
How do you come to the realization of another gender by your own devices? It's impossible.
Because do you know what
be socially constructed?
No, that's not true.
Basically, you're going to have nurture.
Let me answer your question. Let me
Look,
answer your question.
you can't
Do you
have a
know?
sexuality without a society.
Listen. Do you know what her hermaphrodite is?
Yes, the hermaphrodite's
All right.
different
Okay.
from
Okay. Pause.
male or
So if
female.
you have a hermaphrodite, right, that is a man and a woman. That means scientifically
No, a
they have
hermaphrodite's not a man or a woman.
chromosomes. They had chromosomes,
Yeah,
right?
but that's
That was pretty
different. You're
much the
talking about
same.
you guys
Right?
are talking about
That
genetic defects. You can't go to genetic
But
defects
that
to
yes, you
describe
can, because that's what I'm trying to. Yes, you can.
genetic
Yes, you
normalcy.
can. Because
And
if
again,
one
the
is
hermaphrodite. So
physical,
all right. So let me ask you this: what
genes
sexuality is a
create
hermaphrodite?
who you are.
What sexuality
We
is a
know
Wait,
this.
hermaphrodite?
why are we talking over
What?
each other? Why are we talking over each other? So
Wait, first off,
let him finish.
wait, hold on a second. I was talking. I was interrupted. How in the world is?
All right,
How
fine.
in the
Go
world
ahead.
is
Go
it
ahead.
that I can't interrupt after I'm interrupted? I
All
don't
right, say what
understand
you
that.
got to say, and I'll correct your
All right. Well,
unscientific notion.
I doubt that, but all right. So what I'm going to say is this, right? No, nobody's born heterosexual or homosexual, right? And moreover, if you want to be really realistic, the homosexual identity wasn't even invented until the 17th century. That is, that there were no homosexuals. Now there were homosexual acts, but there was nobody who was exclusively homosexual or that entire identity field until the 17th century. It was invented in Europe. And now when you say that you see animals performing homosexual acts, that which is opposed to animals being homosexual, you also have to bear in mind that a lot of these animals are under duress. So yes, you can constrain animals to like for instance, like you go to a prison. Is a man who goes to a prison, is he a homosexual because for sexual relief he goes upon other men? Or is it the fact that you can construct a society in such a way that because humans are animals, right, that they would be pretty much forced into homosexual acts with one another, right? And again, even doing homosexual acts would not make you a homosexual per se, as to say a homosexual being, and in so much as a homosexual is somebody who exclusively gets involved with
No.
men.
You say doing a homosexual
again,
doesn't make you homosexual? Okay, I can't.
all right,
What are you
so hold on
talking
a
about?
second. No, I'm saying a homosexual is an identity created in the 17th century. This is not me. This is not me talking about this. This is reality, right? It's where somebody is exclusively, like where they identify as somebody who's exclusively attracted to the opposite sex. This was not an identity that even happened in ancient Greece, where there were like pretty much damn pedophiles. But to our modern senses. But my point is that yes, it is completely socially constructed, and no, there is no such thing as humans being born with a sexuality. It is that humans are socialized to have a sexuality, and that's why it's our responsibility to socialize the next generation to have a sexuality.
All right, let me answer you, because you. What you're saying makes no sense freaking ever. What you're trying to say is that anybody, you speak for yourself, under a situation, right? We're not even talking about gunpoint, would just so happen to be gay. That's bullshit, right? I even have friends that was in jail, right? And I never been to jail or prison or locked up. And I asked him the same question. He was like, nah, that's bullshit, right? That's TV. He said the niggas that was locked up that was gay, them niggas was already gay. He said them niggas was already gay. No one just turned gay by being locked up by not having a woman. He said them niggas was already gay coming in, right? It wasn't like something that they oh, you know what? There's no women. Oh well, due to due to where I am in my environment. Oh, I guess I got to be gay. That's bullshit. That means you're already gay, bro. That means you're already gay, right? If you have people, right? If you have people are born gay, right? There are people that are born gay, just like I asked you, is they're hermaphrodite. We all understand, scientifically speaking, your chromosomes, your cells determine who you are, what you look like, so on and so forth. So if you have your cells, if you have someone that's a hermaphrodite, it means you had a lot of estrogen, you had a lot of testosterone, you had, saying your chromosomes is fucked up, right? That's what I'm saying. It could be a chemical imbalance, or your brain is rewired not like a heterosexual person's mind.
They
So
didn't
when
find
you're
that.
coming into puberty, you would know that, right? I know we
No, there's
all
no
know.
evidence.
I grew up in the 80s, bro. No one wants to be fucking gay growing up in the fucking 80s, right? So,
All
and
right,
you
bro.
know, dudes that was freaking out, that dude is just gay, right? That dude is just gay. That's just it, right? His mannerism and stuff like that. No one made him gay. I don't like talking about this topics, this gay shit topics and stuff like that, but at least need to understand certain fundamental things that homosexuality could either be something chemical or medical, or it could be something that affected you due to your environment of who you are and you made that
Yeah, it's
decision. So
called
it's never
nurture.
a yes or no answer. But to say that people aren't born that way is insane. And that's dangerous rhetoric.
Not insane. It's reality.
How can that makes no sense? What you
Bro, you
saying
know,
due to
look,
environment?
just take the L. Just take the L. It's okay.
All right. We could, you guys can debate back and forth the politics around homosexuality, if you will, but we've spent a lot of time on this topic. Me personally, one of the questions I have from this topic about this scenario that is going down in the Bahamas is, what is the LGBTQ squad gonna do? What are they gonna do? You're gonna do are you gonna send your agents to descend upon the country and seize? Like, what are you gonna do that the Royal Bahamas Police Force ain't doing, right, to investigate this crime? So this notion that this LGBTQ person went missing and all this hoopla around it, it's obvious to me at least that it has to do with the sexual orientation of this individual. And as many people on the panel have said and discussed, if this was just an ordinary Black American person, it wouldn't be all that. And that's the bottom line of it. All right.
Wait, can I add something? I just really quick. I just want to add something.
Only if you add something, then Kofi's gonna want to come back and add something.
No, just an experiment. Just a science experiment. Just a small science experiment. I don't remember the name of it. I just want to say this: that there was the mouse experiment. I can't remember what it's called, where they put the mice in the
Calhoun 25.
Yeah, Calhoun, where they put the mice in the like the ghetto pretty much, and then the mice start developing homosexual tendencies. That's it.
Yeah, the pressures of overcrowding and all that. They started to see mice have homosexual tendencies, not care for their young, and it actually even led to some cannibalism at a point as well. So a lot of good conversations in the chat surrounding. Shout out to Brother Bakari. Shout out to Trigger Happy who's adding his thoughts, and Real Black Gentleman who's out there as well. I don't mean to cut you guys off with that debate, but that's kind of not the topic, right? It's kind of tangential to what we're talking about. And I do want to move on because we're going to end at 11. I do want to move on to something else. Trigger Happy, I want you to stick around in the chat and be very active because the next few topics are topics that you put up. Shooter Breeze topic number 2 says, do you think Black music could be gatekept better if African people globally return their music back to its spiritual roots, or at the very least, protecting music with spiritual institutions? This came with a link that's going to take us to Twitter. It's going to take us to, my computer's acting up. It's going to take us to Twitter. And this post that says, some Maasai chanting. This is so amazing to me because we in the Americas have absolutely preserved these sounds. So this is a short video. I'll play it twice so we can get a feel for it, and then we'll discuss it. All right, beautiful stuff. The poster goes on to say this sounds like some of our early gospel sounds, especially quartet style singing. They add like Maasai are not even West African and sound like family, just like South Africans do. Interesting stuff. I think one of the things that we should pick up on too is that we tend to differentiate ourselves as West African or West and Central African, when in reality we are all of Africa. There was movement, swirling around the continent of Africa. We retained things. We went different directions in some cases, but I think that's one of the things that we need to add to our thinking is that we tend to have a little bit of everything on the African continent. We're not just West Africans or just Central Africans or South Africans or what have you. And I think this is a good example of that. That we in the West, we out here in the Americas can speak to how similar this sound is to who we are, even though we are not descended directly from Maasai people or East African people. So I think it's pretty interesting. Let me start with Black Steel. Black Steel, what say you to what you just heard there?
So yeah, I agree with the similarities, right? I think it's important to realize that African people are one people, and that many of our cultures and music and things like that were spread across the continent, and it made its way to the through our enslavement. When I heard this person singing, it reminded me of in church, the call and response, going to church and somebody would sing and people would sing also. So that was something that was carried over from our mother continent. So, eat that, FBA niggas, or you pretendians who want to be everything but black. Eat that. But as far as the gate kept better, I gotta say, because we are African people, we are not in a position of power. We don't have control over our institutions. And I think that makes it difficult to gatekeep what is ours. So, especially if you're going to reach a certain level of fame, like you want to sell records, eventually it gets co-opted. And we can see that for every musical genre that Black people have created, from jazz to blues to, R&B to disco. Now we're talking about hip hop. It's been co-opted and it's been made more palatable to fit the wider society. So even like reggae, for example, right? Bob Marley is more popular than Peter Tosh among the wider society because Peter Tosh's lyrics were much more, revolutionary, much more, confrontational. Whereas Bob Marley, he sang about love and peace, and he had some of those, militant songs also. But those songs don't really get played on the radio. You don't see those songs too much in rotation because that type of music is not as appealing to the wide society. When I went to the Sizzler concert, my favorite song by Sizzler is No White God. He didn't sing No White God because 90% of the people at the concert was white people. So he didn't sing that song. I understand, you're trying to make your money. I get it. But I think because we lack control over our institutions, eventually our music will be, once it becomes popular, we see that with hip hop. Hip hop wasn't popular at first. What's the thing that Afrobeats? Afrobeats is gaining popularity. I was at Home Depot the other day. I heard Tim's on the speaker. Couldn't believe it. But over time, as his music becomes more popular, it's going to get absorbed by the large society. But the good part about it is the true essence of the music will always remain with us. But until we gain control over our institutions, then unfortunately we're not going to really be able to gatekeep it, regardless of whatever spiritual practices might be attached to it. They'll just remove the spiritual practices from it, and they'll produce Eminem, because unfortunately Black people We are xenophilic. We love inviting people to the cookout. We love honorary whites. Oh, he's just like us. And look what people talk about Donald Trump right now. Oh, he's got shot at and he's a criminal. He's doing scams. He's like my uncle, you know? So we love to put white people, oh, he's one of us now. Somebody called Bill Clinton the first black president because he cheated on his wife and played the saxophone. That type of stupidity. So I think this problem will be solved once black people are focused on gaining power. So I'll leave it there. I'll let somebody else cook.
I appreciate that, Black Steel. So I apparently didn't realize that there were two links here. So let me play the other one. Trigger Happy just pointed out to me in the chat. Before I get to it, there was something Trigger said earlier made me think about something. He mentioned how the music, our music originally was like communal and participatory. Whereas like in the West, it's just a performance. And it made me think about this young sister who has some popularity right now out of the continent named Thames. Beautiful sister too, named Thames. If you watch her perform, you'll notice something she does. And she's not the only one, but again, because she's popular now, I use her as the example. She makes sure to feed the audience lines from her music. So when she says this, you guys say that. So it's like a call and response thing. And I appreciate that because that really is the spirit and the heart of the music, I think. And when we go away from that, where it just becomes a performance. In fact, it's gotten so bad, and I saw D Webb talk about this before, where it's gone to the point now you'll go to some shows and the guys aren't even performing. They're just playing the music and the guy kind of rhymes over his own track or some shit like that. Like it takes the soul out of the music. So I just wanted to add that. So the second part of this prompt, I guess, talks about the church. This is a tweet from Diaspora Dash. It says, it's so fascinating how so much of various genres of music created by Black people come from spiritual spaces / the church. This is consistent diasporically. Music mislabeled as quote-unquote Latin comes from sacred drumming that was banned, mind you. And this is a retweet of Mother of All Mothers that says, a reminder that gospel music is the foundation of house music. So I'll play this again twice just so that we get the idea. On second thought, I'll play that once before I get a strike or some shit for it. But lastly, Trigger's last comment here says communal equals spiritual. The participatory and the interconnectedness of reality. Music has always been about the vibrations of the universe in a sense. Black Steel out there said that actually slaps. I appreciate all of that. Let me go to Kofi. Kofi, what say you to what you just heard there?
I always say this when in our music and in our dance, right? I saw so when people say that FBA and people say, well, we're not African and something like that. I mean, it sounds corny. It says, there's a meme out there that says that I wasn't born in Africa, but Africa was born in me. And what that means to me is that you could run away from your Africanness. You could do whatever you could bleach, you could shuck and jive, you could do all the things that white society expects you to be. I remember years ago it was a beautiful documentary. I cannot find it anymore. It had John Henry Clark in it. It had Amos Wilson and a couple other people in there. And they were basically saying, you have a group of African Americans, right? And you say, okay, girls, okay, people, make up a dance. You know, all the movements and the mannerisms is going to just resemble Africans. They didn't get no African study. No one was pushing Afrocentrism on them or anything like that. Why? Because it's coming from your soul. It's coming from your DNA. It's coming from your ancestors. That creativity, that's where it's coming from. You're not going to create anything you're not going to create anything that's outside of you, right? So this is nothing. I think this is nothing like new to me. I see it all the time. Yeah, you know, the music sounds like church music, like Mahalia Jackson, and you know, it's just it's a beautiful sound because it's familiar to us, right? As far as us being, are we good stewards of gatekeeping our culture? No, and I do understand that, you know. You can see that innovation, especially with Black Americans, because they're on one of the biggest stages in the world. You know, the country music, African American music, taking an African instrument, the banjo, right? You know, make fun of that, being poked fun of that until it's whitened up. Oh, it's great. It's country music. All right, you crackers took that. Okay, Little Richard, Frankie Lyman, and all those guys on Frank Berry. All okay. I'm gonna do this thing called rock and roll on Muddy Waters. Nigger music. Da, da, da. Someone picks it up. Elvis picks it up. Oh, that's awesome. Oh, I didn't know that. You know what I'm saying? I'm telling you right now, in 50 years, the face of hip hop is gonna be fucking Eminem and the Beastie Boys. It's not gonna be Cool Herc or nobody like that, right? But I'm saying that to say, fine, they're taking it. What we can do, which we don't do, is speak up about it, right? Like there's not enough of us coming together saying like, hey, look, that's our music and is being used against us. Hey, look, that's our person and they're being turned against us. Hey, look, that is our image of who we really are and is being turned against us. You know, and I say this when it comes to entertainment, we're not good stewards of protecting our identity, protecting our culture, right? And this goes across the board, a little bit off top. This goes across the board as far as music and as well as movies and how our image is being portrayed. Because we still got niggas saying, "Oh, it's just a movie." It's never just a movie. It's never just music. Right? Because if it was just that, why make this concentrated effort to have something like, wow, you have something that's beautiful and positive, it goes to be used as negative. Why is it always being pushed in the negative light? You know, so I'll yield the mic right there.
I appreciate that, Kofi. Make sure you guys subscribe to Kofi's channel, please. If you haven't done so, do so now. So make sure to subscribe to his channel. You know, the more I think about this post, the more I like it, because I'm starting to really connect with what is being said here. Like, if we really got more in tune with ourselves and admitted that this music that we create in the West, these different genres, come from an African spirit, an African soul, then we wouldn't really accept an Eminem whose mechanics, his intonation, his inflection, and his topics, all that, we wouldn't accept it. It doesn't resonate with us. You know what I mean? And I think there's something to that. If we really embraced who we would gatekeep in terms of, we wouldn't even fuck with it. They could push that shit all they want. We wouldn't, because it doesn't resonate with us. So I get it. Let me hear from Anthony McPhail on this one. Anthony, what say you?
Okay. Yeah. All right. Hey, and I want to say that was a good point by Brother Coffee too, man. Okay. I want to make a couple of points if I can. Okay. Leading off, I mean, okay. No, added on to what Coffee was saying. Okay. Right now, I was just looking at I was on YouTube, this channel surfing. And they had these Negroes. I mean, y'all remember a group called Brand Nubian?
Yeah, you talk about Lord Jamal.
Yeah, Lord.
Yeah, Lord Jamar. They had Lord. Look, they had Lord Jamar. Now this is a brother who's supposed to be conscious. Lord Jamar.
From Guyana. From Guyana. He said his grandfather was from, he found out when he's doing his lineage. Sorry not to cut you off, but to give you context of how hypocritical he is. When this whole FBA thing, when he jumped on it, he did his background. You know, he did his whatever. Found out, I think his great grandfather is Guyanese.
Yeah, and check it out. Oh, and man, I'm a cover. We're gonna have to talk. I got some stuff for you. But look here, this is what I'm saying. This brother, Lord Jamar, and you know, Brand Nubians was one of my favorite groups. I love Brand Nubians. No, but we're back in the '90s when they was rapping. But this brother, Brand of Lord Jamar, and not only him, but Rakim, the brother. I mean, Rakim, man. Don't you know? I mean, and back in them days, man, you couldn't tell me nothing about Rakim. I mean, you'd start a fight with me talking about Rakim. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I'd have been ready to kick your ass, you'd have whooped my ass. But I'm saying, Rakim, Lord Jamar, and some other Negroes, even Ice Cube and others, you had these Negroes on the Drink Champs and a couple other shows talking about how Eminem was the top 3 or the best rapper of all times. You know what I'm saying? Now, these are brothers who's supposed to have some kind of black consciousness.
Nah, you lying. I gotta see that.
Look here, Lord Jamar called Eminem Lord Jamar, and matter of fact, Rakim said if it wasn't for his color, Eminem would be the best ever.
What?
Yes, I tripped out. Hey, look at I just seen it on Drink Champs. I tripped out and I said,
"What happened to Big Daddy Kane? Big Daddy Kane is one of my favorites. Are you insane?"
And I love Big Daddy Kane, and Big Daddy Kane gave props to him. Dr. Dre gave props to him. All of these rappers, and you know, but see, I'm gonna tell you, Negroes, not black people, but Negroes would do anything for money. You talking about white folks do anything for money? Negroes will do anything for money. When I say Negroes, I'm talking about that Negro mentality. I'm not talking about you. I'm not talking about me. I'm not talking about Koku. I'm not talking about Buana or Pro Black. We black. I'm talking about Negroes. Because Negroes have no integrity. What I'm saying, all of these Negroes that I'm talking about, I mean, I was going down the list because it was this guy and it was a white dude. And he was saying, y'all say black people don't support Eminem or whatever. And he was naming and he was showing, and he had all of the video clips of Negroes giving props to Eminem and talking about how great Eminem was, how he was top 3, or top 2, or number 1 rapper. So, I mean, this is going to the point of what we were saying about gatekeeping our culture. You know what I'm saying? And how you was talking about how Koku and you was talking about how we'll let anybody in. You know what I'm saying? Now here they go, got this old honky, this motherfucker who, I mean, to me, okay, I'll put it this way. I think Eminem is a fair rapper. He's not in my top 20. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I can think of a whole lot of other MCs, and some of these MCs who I think of, and some of the motherfuckers who was saying this nigga was in the top 5. You know what I'm saying? But what I'm saying is, it's confusing. It's not always confusing, but it's like it's a trip because, like I said, Negroes will do anything for money, and they'll put this cracker up there, and sell out our culture for money. Okay, the other thing was this right here. I need to talk to. I wish Brother Bakari was here. I know Bronner probably know a little bit about it because he spent time in New Orleans. You know, Koku, I know you're an educated brother and you've been around the culture, so you know something. But I know Bronner probably know. I don't know if Kofi knows. And I'm tying this into the black music, into the connection with Africa. Now, I'm from Louisiana, and I know Brother Bakari is from Mississippi. Okay, and Carl might know it. Carl Hezekiah might know it. But it was a long time ago. They don't even sing this song no more. They don't sing it no more. But when I was growing up, it was a song, and when we was in church, it was a song called The Evening Hymn. Sometimes we used to call them the old 100s. Have y'all ever heard of it?
Nah. If you can find it, put it in the chat.
I probably know it.
No, it was some old spiritual songs that came back from during the enslavement period. Okay, now check this out. Listen real carefully. Okay, it was this one particular song. If you Google it up on YouTube, you'll see a different versions of it, like updated version. But you will see one is an old version, and it's an old pastor. It's a pastor, a deacon in the church. He leading off the song. I'm going back to the call and response thing. Okay, and the song is called "I Love the Lord. He Heard My Cry." Have you ever heard of it?
I know that song. Yeah.
Okay, but hey, but you remember the old version that I'm talking about?
Yes, I do.
And it sounds like a song straight out of West Africa.
Yeah, I know.
If you listen to it, I heard the Lord, He heard my cry, and then all of the choir comes in. You heard that part right there. You heard it.
Yeah, I know that song.
Okay.
Listen, half my family's preachers. I know all of that.
Yeah, I'm glad you know, because everybody don't know that. What I'm saying, and this is, I mean, this I play it a lot for some of my younger people. You know, I do a little teaching and everything on the side. But I'm saying to show that connection to Africa, and this song was a direct connection to Africa. But like you know, I brought that up because of the brother was talking about the call and response and everything, and our connections to Africa, our cultural connection, and how you got these damn. Don't even get me talking about these Negroes, man, with this FBA and ADOS bullshit. You know what I'm saying? I could just whoop some of their ass and shit. But I'm just saying. But yeah, I mean, I agree with we don't gatekeep our culture. We don't gatekeep our culture. We was talking. I know I'm long-winded, man. I'm gonna wrap it up. We was talking. Me and some cats was talking. Now, one of my favorite artists is a Nigerian artist. Yeah, I know y'all heard Fela Kuti. Yeah, I know y'all heard of Fela. Not his sons. I'm talking about Fela. Everybody heard of Fela?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. Well, Fela is one of my. Yeah. Okay. Well, Fela is one of my favorite artists. Now, Fela in his music, he incorporated a lot of jazz music into his music. You know, he incorporated his because Fela was he was an African traditionalist. You know, he believed in the African traditional belief systems, and he incorporated it in his music. He incorporated jazz. You know what I'm saying? You know, because he was influenced by jazz, and so me and some brother was talking, and they was like, yeah, man, them Africans, yeah, man, they taking our, they taking our culture. And I said, well, you know what, man, you got to realize one thing. See, when you have Negroes who don't study history, who don't study our story, rather not history, and don't study our culture. Okay, I had to tell them. I said, look here, man, jazz came from Africa. Jazz came from out of the drum. You know what I'm saying? The very word jazz was came from a West African word that means the beat, the pound the goddamn drum. You know what I'm saying? And where I'm from, we had a place called Congo Square where they used to let the Africans come down and beat the drum. Well, after a period of time, they said, you Negroes can't beat them damn drums no more because they were sending signals. And so what they did was they had to stop beating the drums, and then when they picked up the European, they had European brass. You know, they had at that time in New Orleans and South Louisiana, the Creole culture. They had they was playing European concert music. You know, with French horns and all that old shit. They were playing European concert music. And so what our people did, they got the horns and they said, well, they started out imitating the white folks playing the European concert music. But what happened, they said, we're going to put our own swing to it. And they really adopted the drum to the horns. And next thing you know, you had a new musical genre called jazz. You know what I'm saying? If you listen to artists like Dizzy Gillespie, listen to some of Dizzy Gillespie's old music from the 50s, with him and Chano Polvo from Cuba. And, it was straight. I mean, some people call it was straight. He was playing voodoo on the horn. You know what I'm saying? It was the straight drum. It was the drum, the talking drum. You know what I'm saying? So I had to let them know, man, look here. While you up here talking about somebody stealing our culture, man, I'm trying to tell you that our culture came from there. So it ain't no stealing. Burna Boy ain't stealing shit. Burna Boy just doing African culture, African music. You know what? We just doing African music because we want people. And we take from each other. We give and take from each other. And I know I'm long-winded, man, and I kind of knock off right there, man.
Nah, good stuff, man. Good stuff. I don't mind folks taking time to express their points. I appreciate that, Anthony. Trigger Happy makes a point. I was gonna bring up after Anthony was done. He said it should be emphasized, though, that there's a history of back and forth on the music. I think James Brown also has his contacts with continental African musicians. You know, one of the reasons why James Brown's music was good, which is similar to why Timbaland's beats are good, is because James Brown said every instrument is a drum, man. So what Anthony was saying just now about the horns mimicking the drums, that's what makes our music work. Any musical genre that we created, that's what makes it work. The instruments are just percussion. The bass is just percussion. If you listen to a Timbaland beat, especially Timbaland back in the day when he was hot, his beats are all is all about the bass being played in a way that's percussive. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's definitely in the spirit of the music, and like the prompt is trying to get at, if we as the masses really got back to that center of our African music, that spirit of the music, you know, we wouldn't really allow so many different people to come into the space. You know, it's kind of like when you see white folks somewhere in West Africa or somewhere wearing like African clothing and trying to do the African dances, and it just looks so fucked up and weird. It should be immediately banned, right? It just doesn't make sense. It's not their shit. They don't know what to do with it, and it looks odd to us. You know what I mean? I think it's the same concept. We need to get back to it heavily. Let me hear from owners. I'm sorry, who was that? Anthony?
Yeah. Hey, I'm sorry, Coco. Can I say something real quick, and I'm gonna knock off?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. If you remember, this one thing I remember, because I had to get around it myself. Because like I said, Fela is my favorite artist. But Fela had a song called "Water Get No Enemy." Y'all ever heard that song?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, that's
Water
one of
Get
my
No Enemy.
favorites. One of my
Hey,
favorites.
now check it out. This goes to the part about the gatekeeping part, about us gatekeeping. When Fela first started the song, see, he gave you two versions. He started it first off speaking in Yoruba. You know what I'm saying? The first part of the, if you remember the song, he was speaking in the indigenous Nigerian language. You know, and then he'll come back and say, "Water kill your child." You know what I'm saying? And I'm saying one thing that we can do to gatekeep is learn how to speak our languages, learn how to speak our languages, and when we sing music, say it in our languages. I knock off right there.
That's an excellent point right there. Let me hear from Oni next. Oni would say.
Yeah, I agree with that point about learning our languages, but I'm gonna put it. I like to try to be a little realistic, right? And I think the reality is this: you're not gonna be able to gatekeep music, you know, especially on a commercial level, and especially um, depending on where you are in this world, right? The reality is that a lot of the music that we talk about as, you know, black music or even African American music is music in America, right? And America's a white country, and the reality is that it's music that, you know, I guess you could say we as Black Americans wanted white people to consume. So I'm not really older than many people here, but what I could say is that when I was younger, black music wasn't even on television, except for I think maybe BET, right? But like MTV, there was like two major channels, MTV and VH1, and they refused to play black music up until Michael Jackson's Thriller or something like that. Like, because I remember they made a big deal about Michael Jackson's Thriller being the first black song to be played on these white networks. But like white people were literally like, no, we're not even going to play your music, right? And black folk, you know, I guess Michael Jackson in particular, but black folk were really trying to get on the white media. So it's like if you were going to gatekeep, you would have said, you know what? No, let me stick to BET, right? Or if you were
Did the sound cut out?
Yeah, I think it's sound cut out.
Yeah, the sound cut out. Only we'll get back to you when you get back on. It seems he dropped off. Buana, in the meantime, Buana, what say you?
Well, I want to say a few things. Cole, you hear me, right?
You're back choppy again.
God dang, man. I was trying to experiment to see. I'll go back on my laptop again. So you go, I'll come back.
All right. Oni's back. Oni, finish your thought.
Wait, can somebody hear me? Can people hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now. Go ahead.
I can't hear anything.
All right. Oni, drop out and come back in then. All right. For some reason, we're having some problems here with folks' setup. Well, it's me, Black Steel, and Anthony. Does anyone of you guys want to add anything else to the conversation?
Yeah, Coco. I'm sorry. Okay, I just wanted to say, I agree with Oni 100% about the hard to gatekeep. But I say it's hard to gatekeep if you want to make money. You know what I'm saying, Coco? If you want to make money, it's gonna be hard to gatekeep. But like if you want to do it, like keep it with us, you know what I'm saying? I mean, I think it's easy to, like I said, by like using languages, because then you got hunkies and everybody else trying to find out what you're saying. You know what I'm saying? But as far as like if you want to be commercial, whatever, I agree with Oni 100%. It's hard to gatekeep your music. I'll knock off right there.
All right, I appreciate that. Buana's back. Let me see if Buana.
Coco, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Loud
1, 2, 1, 2.
Loud and clear. Loud and clear.
Good. Yeah. Okay. So I'll say this. I wouldn't gatekeep the music, and the reason why I say that is because Black people have not been good stewards of their music. As a matter of fact, soon as some other thing popular comes along, they abandon their music, and I could get to that in a minute. I want to first of all, Anthony lives in the music capital of the world. Okay, he lives in Louisiana. Louisiana has some of the best musical genres that the world has ever seen, and unfortunately, the Fats Domino is supposed to have his own Graceland. And because he was one of the top blues musicians ever. Like he was one of the founders of the genre. Go look and see where his house is and look at the condition it's in. And when you go there, go to Graceland and see the condition Graceland is in. And I'm saying that if we are good stewards of our music and gatekeeping our music, we have to gatekeep the artists who create the music as well. Not just because they're popular no more, throw them to the wayside. It seemed to be like white people have been gatekeeping blues better than Black people. They've been keeping blues alive better than Black people. Why would I say that? Because if you go to blues concerts, who is it full to capacity with? They support the music. They support their music with their dollars. With their dollars. They don't jump bandwagon. That, for me, that's the reason why blues is still popular up to this day. Because if you leave it to Black people, where would blues be? In the garbage can, in the ash bin of history? In the ash bin of history? I'm sorry to say this. Another type of music right now is in Louisiana called second line music. Second line music sound like Junkanoo. Check it out. One of the best music in the world. I think that Black Americans are doing a good job because they seem to, it's not a so-called popular music, and I'm happy about that. So it's really necessarily only played within Louisiana, so really, but it seemed like they passed that music down to their kids and their children. They have been good stewards of that. But it seemed like our popular music, we just throw it away. One of the reggae music in the Caribbean. When I heard Sinead O'Connor on a national media singing about Marcus Garvey, singing one of Burning Spear songs, live at a Living Color, a song he made 70 years ago. I think she was singing on Saturday Night Live. Saturday Night Live. And I'm saying to myself, well, these people have a greater appreciation for the Black music than some Jamaican people. The music is sent all over the world, and it seemed to me that that white folks, and this I'm being honest now, it seemed like they preserve the musical heritage and the history of the music more so than Black folks. Black folks abandon a lot of their music, if I'm being 100% honest. And if I was to say, well, let's just sing the music in our own language. The Jamaicans sing it deep patois, big time patois. Then you find a man like, what do you call it? Snow, who sing but informer and start singing in Jamaican patois. Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. But needless to say, I feel
Hey, Buana, and
like
UB40.
some people appreciate UB40. So I feel like some people appreciate our music better than we do, and they preserve our music better than we do. Now, I'm saying that as a Gaviite, but I'm saying what I have seen. Now, I'm sure that you could give me other instances where the music has not been abandoned, but for the most part, jazz has been abandoned by Black folks, young Black folks, and blues has almost been completely abandoned by some Black folks. Now, if you ask some white folks about like some blues musicians that you never hear about from the deepest part of Mississippi, they'll tell you when he lived, they'll tell you where he died, they'll tell you all manner of things about the man. That's a shame. That's a shame. But because it seems to me that they have a greater appreciation than we do. So I think that there's an appreciation factor that must come back first. Popular is not necessary. You shouldn't go along with popular all the time. Good music is just good music. Good music is just good music. It's a transcend time. And I feel like if a group of people able to appreciate my music better than another group of people, what I could do, Koku, I can go where I'm appreciated. That makes sense to me. That makes sense to me. And if some Black folks were to just create the music and after a while throw it to the ash bin, I could go with the people who picking it up and appreciate it more. Bob Marley are performing from a more Black audiences in Europe and in America, performing in front of more white people in the Americas and in other countries and so forth, rather than performing in front of large Black audiences. Now, he did perform in front of large Black audiences, but it seemed to me when he went into the white world where Black people were, if you look into the audience, you see a sea of white people. And it's not the fact that the music wasn't no good, and if it's not the fact that the music didn't have a conscience to it. It seemed to me it was appreciated more by some groups of people than others. And like I say, man, I'm saying this as a Gavier, but ultimately you are gonna go where you appreciate it and not just tolerate it. You know what I mean? But that's what I think about that. I'll leave it.
Hey, Buana.
I think the conversation is getting spun a little off track. In the economic sense, as a Black musician, I get it that you might have to go and perform amongst other folks who have the disposable income and the appreciation for the music, because what's not to like about our music? I get that. I think the idea, though, I think what's not being discussed is we haven't internalized the music well. And by the way, Brother Bakari's out there, he said blues is still playing down south. He said Black people still keeping that alive. But I think it's the idea is that we haven't internalized our deep-rooted connection to it, and therefore we haven't passed that on to our children who absolutely don't have the deep-rooted connection to it. And so it's easy for us to kind of move on to something else, as Buana and some others have pointed out. Yeah, we tend to abandon genres of music and we move on to something else. But that's the problem. We never anchored ourselves in it. And another thing that's coming up in the conversation is there's a self-hatred that a lot of Black folks have. And they feel euphoria when a white boy or a white woman comes along and sings their music, right? Even though a lot of times it's a shitty job. Like, I remember when Snow came out doing that Informer shit. I was still growing up in that, so when that came out, and I think people just like the idea that look at this white boy who sounds like a Jamaican or whatever it was, right? But that's our own kind of internalized issue. Whereas if we internalize it as the root of this music is African, this is us, right? Then we will keep making that music. And when the pretenders, when the false pretenders come along, right, we wouldn't really jibe with it. I mean, they could push it all they want from the other side. They could push the white artists all they want, but we wouldn't fuck with it. We wouldn't fuck with it. It wouldn't even resonate. It'll be just like distasteful to us. And I think that's really what the prompt is trying to get at. I think that's what the prompt is trying to get at. We would, Eminem would have dropped maybe one album if we didn't, if we had that thing in us that said, I'm not accepting this bullshit. This is a bad imitation. It's like, I was trying to find it behind the scenes, but my computer was acting up. It's like, again, like you watch these white folks when they're like in Ghana or something like that, wearing the African, traditional African dress or Nigeria, and they trying to do that shit. It just looks awful. In fact, I have to turn it off when I see it 9 times out of 10. I think that's what the prompt is really getting at. And I think that's what we should really be speaking to. I think Anthony wanted to add something. Go ahead.
Yeah, Coco. I'm sorry for interrupting, man. But what I'm saying is one thing. This what one was just talking about blues, for example. Okay, now this is what happened with blues. Okay, for one thing, all of our great around the '80s, and even up until the advent of the ancestor B.B. King dying, a lot of our great blues artists had started passing. No, I remember vividly when Muddy Waters died. Okay, a lot of those great giants of blues from the late 30s, the 1940s, in the 50s and onward, all those giants of blues had passed. Okay, now these giants of blues was the ones this was when all them white boys like Mick Jagger and the Rolling Stones, and what's that other name? Steve Winwood and Peter Frampton and all these white boys from England and the UK who was proclaiming that they love blues music and everything. They love listening to Muddy Waters and everything. I was just looking at a documentary the other day where Muddy Waters, one of these I think it was the Rolling Stones, they came and got Muddy Waters and they took him to the UK and they had they did a live music album. You know what I'm saying? And then they performed live over there. And Muddy was, he performed and he smiled and everything. It is a documentary and it's on YouTube right now. And I just looked at it. And Muddy, after the performance, he was talking about how, man, he really hated the shit. He said he hated it because you know what? They was more toward, their performance was more toward the rock and roll and not the blues, like the authentic blues like he played. He said, now these motherfuckers saying like they love me and they admire my music, but the shit that they was playing, they took elements of what he was playing, but the shit that they was playing was like rock and roll music. So there you go, white folks co-opting shit. You know what I'm saying? And adding just a little bit of what we do into some shit they do and making parlaying and making money off of it. But this is where I was going. One thing, like in America, like right now here in the United States, see, the blues movement haven't died. It's died. That genre of the blues is died. But what happened was that black artists here, brothers and sisters here, they adopted a new technique. And that's why I wish Brother Bakari was on here now. Because Buana might know a little bit. But see, they created another genre. It's not really new because it's old. If you listen to Isaac Hayes, you listen to Tyrone Davis, you can still hear Tyrone Davis and earlier Johnny Taylor. See, they reinvented blues. They brought back some old shit that we already had, and they reinvented blues. And see, now we call it Southern Soul. You hear with artists like what's his name? What's the brother name? Pokey Bear. You know, what I'm trying to think of, Prince Chuck. What is his name? Prince something. But anyway, you hear with artists like Pokey Bear, like Patrice. I mean, damn, Pat Cully. Yeah, Pat Cully. You know, it's like that. It's called Southern Soul. You know, I got a lot of the music. You know, the music like you hear with Johnny Taylor when some of his last music, like these last $2 or Wall to Wall. You know what I'm saying? Or some of his sons' music like Floyd Taylor, them. It's called Southern Soul. It's bluesy, but it's not exactly blues like B.B. King blues or Bobby Bland blues. But we call it Southern Soul. We play it down here all the time. You know, like, you know, songs like Double Wide. You know what I'm saying? So I'm saying,
Southern Soul.
right
I gotta look that up.
Yeah. Hey, look up. You know, like the music. I'm gonna tell you what Southern Soul is. You remember when Tyrone Davis made a song called "Are You Serious"? He said, "Are you serious? Are you serious?" You know what I'm saying? He made a song. Look at, he made another song like "Mom's Apple Pie." You remember that song, like "Mom's Apple Pie"? You know, you remember guys like Solomon Burke. He had a song called "We Almost Home." You know what I'm saying? That's Southern Soul. No, it's blues oriented music. And see, the white folks ain't caught on to it yet. They can't sing it. They can't sing. You will not see any white artist running around here singing Southern Soul. You know, you won't see them. Because I mean, it's just, I mean, you know, it's like it was easy for them to try to imitate all our great legends. You know, Emma go up there and play with Bobby Bland, go up there and sing with Bobby Bland. You know, you had Miley Cyrus, this old ugly bitch up here singing Bobby Bland songs. You know what I'm saying? You had all these other ones, Boss Skaggs and everything, you know, singing blues. But then what
Bobby
I'm saying,
Blue Blind. Boy, that's one of my favorite artists, man.
yeah, my mama said that's what I was born off of. What I'm saying, yeah, but I'm saying, you know, yeah, does she love Bobby Bland? But I'm just saying, what we did, Sir Charles, that's what I was thinking about, Sir Charles. Y'all heard of an artist called Sir Charles? Bonner, you ever heard of an artist who had the song?
I just heard a Keb. I had a Keb Mo, and I heard a Corey Harris.
Keb Mo was, you know, he's like, not really. But I'm just saying, you know, you had this. Remember, Bonner, you had some years ago. You had this brother from out of South Louisiana had this song, "Down, Down, Baby, Baby, Do Your Thing." That little song, that little cha-cha song.
Yes, I know that song. I know.
Yeah. You know, I mean, you know, that was like connected to the Southern Soul because, you know, it was somewhere between Zydeco. You know, if you've been you know about Zydeco, it was between Zydeco and Zydeco and blues. But anyway, what I'm saying, artists now have created this. We've recreated a new genre from the stuff that the music that Johnny Taylor was singing. Because, you know, Johnny Taylor, if you know you love Johnny Taylor music, you know he was somewhere between R&B and blues. You know what I'm saying? And see, that's what we call Southern Soul. And see, that's the music that we play that is playing now on our trail rides all across all across the South. You know what I'm saying? The white folks ain't in on that yet. They ain't got a hold to it yet because they can't sing it. You know what I'm saying? But I just wanted to throw that part in right there, and I knock off right there. I don't want to be too long-winded.
Thank you for that, Anthony. Let's welcome in Brother Bakari. He heard his name called and he showed up. Brother Bakari, how are you this week?
I'm good, man. How everybody on the panel, man? Everybody in the chat. Hey, I'm gonna tell you something, man. They've heard Sir Charles Jones. They just didn't know who Sir Charles Jones was. I play Sir Charles Jones. I play Sir Charles Jones all the time. But you're right about Sir Charles Jones, Highway Heavy. What's the guy named Johnny T? When you said Pokey Bear, yes, a lot of them they switched it up. Even the guy, what's the guy name who did One Monkey Don't Stop No Show? What's his name?
I can't remember. No, Adrian, that Browder dude, Adrian.
No,
I know the song. I know the song though.
Yeah, go listen to some. I'm gonna tell you his name right now. Go listen. King George. Keep on rolling.
And Bakari, Marvin Cease.
Yeah, but if you listen to some of their music, what you're saying, you're right. They don't call it blues no more. They act like it's not the blues, but it is the blues. And Bawana, I do want to tell you, man, we keeping blues alive down south, man. I ain't gonna give white folks that credit. Now, white folks do come to they used to be at the blues festival all the time ever since I was alive in the 80s. It was always a lot of white folks at the blues festival listening to blues, but it wasn't more white folks than black folks. But for real, where we had it at, it would be considered. It was a lot of white people that used to be out there that listened to it. You know, the blues clubs. It's the one I can't even will it something here in Atlanta, but it's owned by a white person, supposed some type of juke joint. So there is some credence to what Bawana said. I'm not knocking everything that he said, but we still keeping it alive though. We still playing it in the South and right now in Louisiana running stuff. But for the record, Anthony, Mississippi, we on our way back. But yeah, but it's still, and they making good music, and even with some of them, they even add a little hip hop. They even add what they call a little hip hop beat to it, to some of the blues. And with the one you named, especially when you say Pokey Bear, if you listen to Pokey Bear, just go on anything, listen to Pokey Bear, and listen to the artists that gonna come under him that you can constantly listen to. You can hear you hear different types of blues. But like Anthony said, they're not calling it blues. It's all blues. It's just different type. Like all R&B didn't sound the same. All rap music didn't sound the same. So it's the blues, and all the blues today, it's just not sounding the same, but we still have the bands. We still have the people playing the instruments. We still have the guitar. We ain't got no beat machine. We still got the guitar. We still got the drummers. You understand? We still got the horn players. It ain't no beat machine. We still have that aspect of what we do. I just wanted to come over here and say that.
Appreciate that, Brother Bakari. Is there any last thoughts from the panelists here on this topic about gatekeeping and connecting to the spirit of the African spirit within the music? In the chat, Trigger Happy 262 Plus says, "I'm going to check the music out. Great recommendation." Appreciate that, Trigger Happy. He also says Louisiana and the whole of the South, showing time and time again where the African culture resides, it seems. So that's a nice note to end that one on. We should talk this stuff more often. We should actually do some, but it's so hard to do it on YouTube because they strike you for stuff. I was going to say we should do some musical analysis sometime, but it's just difficult to do it. Let's go to Shoot the Breeze topic number 3 tonight. Shoot the Breeze topic number 3 says, this is a long one again. It says, Pan-Afrikanists often lament industrialization, but experts say that low birth rates is inevitable when a country develops. Is this not a perfect example of the West defining development? And how do we avoid this problem Eurasia is having as developed regions when Africa develops? Okay, let me read that one more time. Should read topic number 3. Pan-Afrikanists often lament industrialization, but experts say that low birth rates is inevitable when a country develops. Is this not a perfect example of the West defining development? I'm going to end the prompt there. Is this not a perfect example of the West defining development? This comes with a link that's going to take us back to Twitter. I refuse to call it X for whatever reason. Takes us back to Twitter. And it's a tweet from Betave. It says, South Korea doesn't have any first graders. You know, what was I saw someone mention this before. It could have been Jose or someone mentioned it. But anyway, South Korea doesn't have any first graders. So let me blow this up. It says over 150 elementary schools have no first graders. A total of 157 elementary schools across South Korea do not have any first graders set to enroll in March, the Ministry of Education said Monday, as a record low number of new students is expected for the upcoming school year. And this is another, I guess it's from the Korea Herald. The title says over 150 elementary schools have no first graders, says the Ministry of Education. The 4B movement is a feminist movement that originated in South Korea in 2019. The movement's members, or 4B, renounce 4 major activities: sex with men, child rearing, dating men, and marriage with men. Let me read those 4 things that they stress again. They renounce sex with men, they renounce childbearing, they renounce dating men, and they renounce marriage with men. The 4B movement is also known as Bihon, Bichulsan, whatever, which means the refusal of heterosexual marriage, childbirth, romance, and sexual relationships. The movement represents a radical escalation of the gender war by seeking to create an online and offline world devoid of men. Very interesting. So we want to know, how do we avoid this problem as folks who are Pan-Afrikanists who seek to, encourage, I guess, development within the African continent. I haven't heard from Black Steel in a minute, so I'm going to start with Black Steel because you've been quiet for a while. Black Steel, what say you to this?
Well, thank you, Coco. I'm glad you let me touch on this first, because I do not believe this is the problem. I do not believe this is a problem of industrialization or development. This is a problem of capitalism. So we understand that capitalism is one of the byproducts of capitalism is alienation, right? So alienation serves to, instead of people working together in groups, now we're focused more on individualism, right? So this 4B movement is, to me, not so much as the radical feminists tend to believe, it's women taking control of their reproductive capabilities because men are so misogynistic. No. This is a function of capitalism, because the reality is that in South Korean society, it is prohibitively expensive to raise a family. And in particular for the men, there's an expectation that the man is not only to be the sole provider of his family, but the sole provider of his wife's family as well. Many times his wife's mother will move in with the family. He's expected to provide for her as well. So when you have a crisis as far as economics, where the wages do not keep up with the cost of living, what you see in the United States, where the cost of living is so high that you need multiple incomes to make it. Many people have to work multiple jobs just to survive. So you're not going to have the time to rear children. You're not going to have the ability to raise your young people. And this is one of the contradictions inherent with capitalism. So you're trying to have infinite profits on a finite planet, right? The capitalist goal is to always increase your wealth. You always, that stock sheet got to show profit every quarter. You got to show more money. But the problem is that you can't get blood from a stone. So you have to start cutting corners, right? So then at the same time, in order to maximize profits, you have to cut wages. But then when you cut the wages, your workers can't afford to buy your products. So then you have the workers have to rely on other means, which is why you're seeing an explosion in the United States of credit, right? Because once the wages are not able to keep up with the cost of living, now people have to rely on credit for work instead of just their wages. You have a situation where now you can't afford to have a large family. You got to watch how many kids you have because you can't afford them, right? And just talking in the United States, we're talking about in South Korea as well. So this development, as long as you develop along capitalist lines, you're going to see a decrease in the population because people just can't afford to live. Because the capitalist will cut his throat in order to make more profit. It's profit above everything. So that's what you're seeing in South Korea. This development is really capitalist development. When you develop along, more socialist lines, where the needs of the society are more important than the needs of the shareholders or the needs of the owners, then you won't see this type of population crash. But that's part of the reason why the capitalist system works so hard to stamp out any type of movement towards socialism or communism or anything away from the Western paradigm or the capitalist paradigm, I should say, because the goal is really to show that you have no alternative. So that's what I was on thing. It's really more of a capitalist thing. I'll leave it there.
I gotta add some sounds to this platform that deserves a bit of a round of applause. What Black Seal just put down there. I was trying to get this point across to a Black woman I know recently. The old idea of a man being the provider and protector amongst our people, amongst our women in particular, needs to be updated and revised. It needs to be revised and updated. This is not the 50s no more. These guys sacrificed family. These people who are in charge sacrifice all that shit to open up the economy for capitalism. They decided that you gotta, everything Black Seal just said. They decided you have to have 2 incomes and this, that, and the other. And I think what's killing us, which kind of feeds the gender wars you see on social media a lot, is this idea that a man doesn't have it like that anymore. The average man doesn't have it like that anymore to hold a woman down where she could stay home and he just goes, he works his job or two and everything is okay, everything is fine. It's just not like that anymore. They changed the game. It's not like that anymore. Sweetie, you're gonna have to work. Even if it's just part-time, you're gonna have to contribute something. And so what this article is showing, what Black Steel just said, is true. By the time your woman has to go and work a 9 to 5 like you do, yeah, she probably don't want to come home and clean no house again, wash no dishes again. I'm not saying that that's the primary job of a woman, but I am saying, like, if you're talking traditional roles, raising children and all this kind of thing again, it's not going to work. It's not going to work unless you have a change in how you perceive this thing. And I was trying to get it across to a woman recently. I don't know if I did a good job or not, because, folks don't like to listen. But we got to change it. We have to really sit down and figure this shit out as men and women under the system, under this reality that they have us living under. We gonna have to sit down and figure out how we move forward with this. Trigger has a lot of comments in the chat. This was his prompt, by the way, so I'll get to those in a second. Let me hear from Anthony first, and then I'll get to Trigger's comments. Anthony, what say you?
Okay, bro. Okay. Look here. Okay, I had to, when I was listening to this, I said I had to think, did I really want to get in this? Because we talk about the capitalism, socialism aspect of it, in a way, okay. I was listening at Brother Black Steel, and he made valid points. And I mean, he made valid. It's hard to argue with what he said. It's hard to argue. But I was just thinking, this bear with me just for a minute. Okay. I was doing a little studying. Okay, and I was seeing where I was doing some study about Europe. I was doing some studying about China, about even a little bit about Korea. The basic the line, the thread that connected them to a degree was that Europe, okay, Europe is a resource poor region. It's a resource poor region. As far as like all of the minerals and we've had something, but I mean, as far as all of the minerals, the things that we think about when we associate like with Africa, in other places in the world, it's a resource poor winter. Dr. John Henry Clark used what they call it a thawed out ice box. Okay. Then I thought about China. Now, as big as a country as China is, I was doing a little study, a little background search on China. Now, for as big as it is, China is a resource poor place too. I mean, it has some things, but it's a resource poor place. And then I seen Korea, and I also did a study about Japan. Japan has very few raw materials and resources. Okay, so you had this thing about population, about these small families. What this new thing about not having so many children and everything. Okay, then check it out. We turn around and because a lot of us say, well, the thing as far as Marxism and socialism, the things that affect like Europe are not the same things that affect Africa. Let's see, Africa is a huge continent, a big continent, 12 million square miles, and most African countries are underpopulated. You know what I'm saying? They have a vast amount of resources and everything. And I'm tying this into where they're trying to push the resources of the world are so limited, and that they try to push on Africans to have as few people as possible, the families as possible, try to keep the population down. But we know, according to the stats, all these African nations' populations are growing and growing and growing and growing. And so I was trying to figure out, I was trying to figure out where's this whole thing coming from. And I think that it's confusing, and I couldn't quite wrap my hand around it, but I think it's basically because you could tie this around Europe not having the resources, and places like China, places like this not having the resources, and Africa having the resources. And I think basically it's a land, it's something that eventually is going around to the colonization of Africa. That's what I think. I know it might not, it might sound kind of strange to some of the brother like Black Steel and everything, some of the other brothers, but I kind of leave it at that, because I'm still working on it, but I just love to hear what y'all think about it.
I appreciate that, Anthony. Trigger Happy said to you, Anthony, that's why they want to create the lie that we are overpopulated. We should have more children, or at least a steady birth rate. They want to reduce that as much as possible. You want to add something to that, Anthony?
No, exactly. I agree with that, man, because they always talking about how, about the population explosion, how it's too many people using up all of the resources. But like I said, Africa, the most countries, you have Nigeria, which has about 200 million. You got Ethiopia, which has 100 million. You got Congo that has about 100 million. But the average other country, you have other countries that have like 50 million, 40 million, 20 million. But the majority of the countries in Africa have about, small populations. An average like Botswana, 2 million. Gabon, 2 million. Guinea-Bissau, 1.5 million, 2 million. Countries that have 5 million and whatever. And this is a huge landmass. Remember, Africa is 12 million square miles. 12 million square miles with like 1.5 billion people. China is 3,750,000 square miles with a billion and something, with 1.2 billion people. You know what I'm saying? You could fit China in Africa several times. 3 or 4 times. This is a huge landmass. So I'm saying, they're saying about the overpopulation. Africa has plenty of arable land, plenty of rivers. The Congo by itself, if you harness the Congo River could light up all of Europe and West Africa and Africa. It could light up all of it. All of the arable land that's in Africa could feed entire Europe and much of the other parts of Eurasia. That's why you got the Arabs, Saudi Arabia, they had this plan, this project to colonize southern Sudan, to make it the breadbasket for Saudi Arabia. No, this was something that actually happened. This is why they had that ongoing war in Sudan, part of the reason why they had the ongoing war, you know, it was masqueraded as a Christian versus a Muslim versus Christian thing, or Arabic versus black African Nubian thing. But really, it was for the resources of South Sudan, because North Sudan is arid. You know what I'm saying? The Nile River is small up there. South Sudan is green and lush. And so you had people in Saudi Arabia who were trying to who were pushing the regime up in North Sudan to colonize that, to make it into a breadbasket for Saudi Arabia. So I'm saying, I mean, a lot of this stuff goes back. It goes back to the colonization of Africa. You know, but they use other terms. They'll tell you like population is exploding here and there. And you know, and they even now talking about how Europeans ain't having babies. I mean, because like John Henry Clay, it was a thawed out icebox. You know what I'm saying? They don't have no resources, so they couldn't have more people because they were draining the little resources that they had. And like I said, China, if you study China, is a big country, and you would think that they have a lot of mineral resources and mineral wealth or whatever, but it really doesn't. China's prone to famines. I'm saying, I don't want to go on too long, man. I knock off. I didn't mean to go too long, Coco.
No. Again, no need for apologies, man. Express yourself. I like it. In the chat, KW7 points out South Korea has a birth rate of 0.78, and you need a 2.1 for replacement. So that says a lot. Trigger Happy 262 had a lot to say. Let me get through some of his comment. He said, this has to be the most scary thing about Western development. We have to define development on our terms. Technological import doesn't have to mean cultural import. Well said. I like that. He said feminism and patriarchy has to stay far away from Africa. These are gender relations, theories, and systems that come from the northern cradles and are extremely imbalanced. He says, I think it's deeper than that. I think he's referring to what Black Steel said. See, I try not to get into the one system is better than the next, blah, blah, blah. I understand that we live under a capitalist system, and a lot of the ills of society is based around that system. We just have to be honest about it. He said, I think it's deeper than that. Socialists are often tolerant of feminism as well. It's a cultural problem. We have to avoid taking on their culture. Capitalism is their culture, not ours. That's well said too. He said, I do not want to be in an Africa that has no first graders. That should be avoided at all costs. He says, I also made this problem specifically and worded it like this because many often make the argument that as you industrialize, women get educated. But are we saying they get educated to have no children? Let me skip down a little bit. KW7 says the only populations with positive birth rates are India at 2.2 and Africa on the continent at 4.4. China, Korea, and Japan are toast when it comes to birth rates. Trigger Happy says also interracial has to be of concern. Chinese people are moving into Africa slowly. Absolutely. With that said, Buana, I know you're going to respond to Black Steel or the capitalism thing, but what are your thoughts overall as it relates to the prompt?
Yeah, so it's interesting, Black Steel has made his Workers of the World Unite speech, and you co-sided like Hegel's, coming with the socialist. no problem. But now I have to answer to the other side of this equation, because first of all, you don't argue in extremes. Now, why I say that, I look up the FB movement. The 4B movement. The 4B movement claimed to have had 4,000 members. That's what they claimed. The people who are members, 4,000. Currently, right now, South Korea is a population of 51 million, and 25 million out of 4,000 people, 25 million don't co-sign to this 4B movement. So obviously, they will continue on their their gene. They'll continue with the tradition of how they live and relationships with men, etc., etc., etc. So that's really, you can't argue with the extreme of what 4B doing. That's first of all. Another thing too is, you don't put the cart before the horse. Koreans' problems is not necessarily African problems. These are two different these are two different places. These are two different contexts, and these are two different histories. So it's very unfair to put a Korean suit on an African man. It's very unfair. But I would say this: when you have to redefine development, I do agree you should redefine development. It's important to redefine development, but that development should fit what our issues are. What our issues are, what we currently dealing with. Now, Africa doesn't have a shortage of being a baby making factory. We know how to have sex, and we know how to have children. So the idea of this whole idea of development or industrialization will curtail that. That's really, we have to test that before we really come to that decision. Well, this is gonna be the effect of so-called industrializing our countries. So I think that you can't put the cart before the horse yet. You can't. That's very unfair to state that. Just because it's happened to different places in the world doesn't necessarily mean it'll happen in Africa. I don't believe that to be true.
But Juana, do you want to take that risk? Do you want
to wait? It's a must. It's a must. It's a must.
You want to wait for it to happen to see if it happens?
No, but let me finish my point. I come back to your answer. I come back to that. Stick a pin in that. Stick a pin. So what I would say is this: our issue is we have went through the process of colonization for a long period of time. So one of the first things that I would try to do is develop my people internally in their headspace. You know, you have to go through a process of deprogramming. You know, decolonization. That's a must. First to our countries. What did Ibrahim Traore do? One of the first laws he did was make it illegal for women to wear wigs, for women to wear European wigs. That's one of the things that he's currently instituting in his so-called Pan-Afrikanism to kind of thinking. He went through the process of saying you can't have these European wigs. We're gonna outlaw that. That's first and foremost. The other thing he forbid in his country is bleaching. Bleaching. That's an important feature in terms of development. You have to develop the human mind first before you can go through any kind of other process of what you consider to be development, or even in competition with the outside world. So that's a good shoe or a good suit for the African mind. Going through the process of decolonization first and foremost. That's first. The next, now I gotta address your question. When you talk about industrialization, this is one of the things that Africa has not done. And the reason why, well, there's many reasons why. It's not the reasons of internally they didn't want to industrialize, but externally, the external powers that be was keeping Africa from industrializing. Why? Because they didn't want them to compete with them and what they were doing with the rest of the world. This is the reason why you could take a cocoa tree and instead of manufacturing or having industries that would turn that cocoa nut into actual coffee or chocolate bars and shit like that, it's because they used to send that shit to Europe. They used to send that stuff to the Netherlands, you know, so they could convert the cocoa nut into chocolate and sell it throughout the world, and sell it back to the Ghanaian people or sell it back to the African people as a finished product. If we had industrialization, we could sell our own products throughout the world. That's an important feature we must do. We have to participate in the science of the world and in the technology of the world. We could define it as we would like it to. You know, we could define it as we would like it to. But if you want to be a competitor in the rest of the world and not have people sell you finished products after you would have extracted all the raw material and resources out of your ground, to stop that from happening, Africa must industrialize. It must do that if they want to remain competitive. But if you want to continue to buy finished products back from people who have manufactured, because they have industries who have manufactured your own resources and materials back to you, it'll continuously happen. This is what what's the man name? The president of Ghana. The president of Ghana. His name is the first president of Ghana. I know everyone know who he is. But this is what he was. Nkrumah. This is what Nkrumah was talking about. He was talking about this exact thing. You know what I mean? You must industrialize. You cannot avoid it. But like I say, if y'all can industrialize into socialism or capitalism, it's your choice. But it's a must to do that. But I say the first feature is you have to go through the process of deprogramming the minds of African people first to make them believe that they can compete. Because there are some black men who don't believe that they compete anyway. They can compete anyways. And we had some of these people on the show all the time telling you the black man can't compete with other men in the world. So you have to program the minds of people first, and then you have to engage in the same industries and mechanisms. And if we have these secondary problems are not having a great birth rate and other kinds of things, and we'll have to be able to sort these things out. Trust our African mind to work out the solutions to our own problems as they come. Don't believe that we can't do it because they couldn't do it. You know what I mean? Trust the black mind. I trust the black mind. I trust myself to be able to resolve the issues in going forward in terms of development. I'll be able to solve these problems. I don't believe that I can't do it just because another man can't do it. You know what I mean? But that's what I think, and I'll leave it there.
Well, I don't see anything erroneous in what you said. The only issue is that it doesn't quite overlap with what we're discussing. Like Trigger Happy says here, actually, he says it well. The argument is not to industrialize or not. The argument is to industrialize in an African fashion. That's what we're talking about, really. Earlier, Trigger said something along the lines of you could import the technology, you don't have to import the culture. And that's what we're talking about.
But I agree. If they sorry for interrupting. No, I agree. Because I have a little delayed cocoa. Sorry. But I agree with that. I'm not saying that taking it out of, that's why I say you have to redefine development. So I'm not taking it out of an African context. I'm not doing that at all. If that's what he is suggesting, putting it in an African context, I agree. We agree. There's no argument. We don't have to do it the same way the South Koreans did it. We don't have to do it the same way the Europeans did it. We could do it in our way, in form and fashion, but we have to remain competitive with the rest of the world. That's all I'm saying.
No, absolutely. And I think everyone agrees, by the way, with you. We got to compete. We've talked about this on Shoot the Breeze for years now. We have to compete. So we have to technologize. We have to industrialize. Sure. But we don't want... I live in America, and I've been living here for a while now. For a while. And you don't want this life stateside on the continent in our future. This thing where you hardly have time to shit proper. You don't want that. I kind of miss being back in my home country, where you go work. You're working 9 to 5, but you ain't gonna be burnt out quite like this shit here. After you have your lunch in the day, work kind of slow down. That's our culture. That's how we push it, right? After you knock off work, you could go hang with some fellas, and it's no big scene, right? Go out with your girl, it's no big scene. But this shit here, with the old school mentality, this is what I was talking about earlier when I first had a statement after Black Steel went. This current day with that old school mentality of the 50s or some shit where a man can hold down the whole family, that's just not the reality. And we don't want that shit in the continent. This is what, it didn't come up earlier, but this is what leads to a lot of self-deletion and health issues and all this type of stuff. And this shit that you're seeing going on in South Korea, where women just say, man, fuck that. I ain't trying to be married. I got to, after I finish working 80 hours this week, I ain't trying to come home to take care of no man. Right? To do the things that we kind of would expect from women. We don't want that with African women.
I want to answer that, Coco, quickly.
Yeah,
I think that, because I didn't want to answer that question. What has happened in the Western world is that the social contract that the male and the female had with each other has changed. What do I mean by that? The idea of the stay-at-home mom, stay home and all day working, taking care of the children, that social contract has changed. So what the universities in this part of the world has pushed is career first and foremost. And in that setting, when in a career kind of setting, you only thinking about yourself first. Yeah, you aren't thinking about the baby that you have to take care of. You aren't thinking about that husband you have to take care of. In fact, it gets so bad. The contract is that the man don't even matter. You could have a child and don't even have to have a father or a husband and things. The social contract has changed. It's just the black men are still working off of that 1950s contract, that mentality where.
So Bwana, if I can interject, just what came first, the chicken or the egg, right?
Yes.
So was it that women became career women, or was it that these societal conditions forced women to have to go to work? Because I'm going to say this thing about one income household, that was not a reality for most African people, at least especially in the United States. My grandmother was born in 1923, and she works her whole life. My grandfather, he worked on the railroad. My grandmother worked at a dry cleaners. But for this idea of one person being able to afford a home, that was not a reality, especially for most African people. Even most poor white people didn't have the option to where you could have a one income household. But I think that the what we start to see, especially around the 1970s, is that wages start to stagnate, right? So at least in the United States, wages have not kept up with inflation. So even though the profits of companies are getting bigger and bigger, the wages that workers are earning are staying the same. They're not keeping up with inflation. So then you start to have the need for more women to enter the workforce. Not to say they weren't in the workforce already. That's true, but the percentage of women going into the workforce is increasing. And on the extreme side, you see South Korea. You don't see that in Africa yet, because you don't have that level of capitalist development in Africa right now. Now, in Nigeria, right, which is the exploitation in Nigeria is insane. I read somewhere that almost 96% of Nigeria's forests are gone, just destroyed. The Niger Delta is polluted because of these oil companies. So, but then you start to see some of this hyper capitalism. These women and their desires are just ridiculous now, because what are they comparing them to? And I guess the fear is that once you define your development along capitalist lines, right, there's no ceiling. There's nobody say, okay, that's enough, I'm good. It's always from one higher moment to another. And then we say, well, did the women want to go to school, or did the women have to go to school and able to afford a lifestyle because they couldn't afford it otherwise? Or not even a lifestyle, even afford a regular living. Just the idea of owning a home, having a vehicle, being able to afford groceries. I don't. Coco could tell you, man, groceries are ridiculous. $300-$400 for groceries.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
Yeah, but black steel.
Yeah.
But black steel. Yeah, we'll be discussing almost the same thing, and I'm gonna tell you why. On the plantation, the black woman used to work with the black man in the field. They primarily had the same job, picking cotton. But what went on outside of the house, it was something very different than what was expected inside of the house. So even though our chores, our task outside of the house would have been different, when we came back to the house, black women would assume certain roles, right? Back then, this was a social contract. Dude was expected of you in the privacy of our own home. A woman has a role, a man has a role, regardless. So the whole idea of, that stay-at-home thing, you are right, because our histories are different from the Europeans. So the black women was always working in the field with us. But what happened is when they came into the house, the man come with the men roles would come before feminine roles. That's changed now. That social contract or dynamic doesn't exist. Now women talking about either equality or I'm running the shit. I'm running the shit. Which man, there are many, let me not say which man, many men won't go for that social contract or that offer. This new contract which says that, okay, me and you make the same salary. In fact, I'm making more than you. Therefore, I get to dictate what goes on in the privacy of my own home. Most men have been trained differently. Most men inside of their homes, they've been taught that they're supposed to be the king of their castle. That's even a legal term. Get the castle doctrine. You're the king of your castle. Now the queen is saying, no. I make more than you inside this house. Therefore, I'm the king of this castle. So that dynamic, that's a new dynamic, or that's a new feature in regards to what we are engaging privately in our own homes. I'm not saying that outside of the home, we don't have equal kind of things that we need to do. Women has to work, a man has to work. I'm talking about the feature that exists internally inside our homes. That's changed. That's fundamentally changed. And many men are not going for that dynamic or paradigm. This is the reason why many men, go in your own way. What they say? Men go in their own way.
Men go in their own way.
Men go their own way. So I think that I want you to address that. Brother.
If he's not going to address it, I kind of want to add to the conversation to what Juana just said, because I was on panel before. I had a similar discussion. We keep talking about not being westernized, and I think what we're confusing masculinity with dominance and rule, which is a Eurocentric paradigm. So if we're talking about a man, what is a man's so-called quote-unquote role or place within the home? It's always protector first, right? I think it's a westernized concept when we talk about, well, you're the provider, so the provider has the last say in everything. And what we're forgetting, we're forgetting that the African man and woman is a symbiotic relationship. What do I mean by that? I mean by no one is ruling no woman. No man is ruling no woman. No woman is ruling no man. That is a Eurocentric conundrum, right? And that'll lead to, feminism and all this other bullshit. That was never an issue in Africa. You have in Nigeria and markets in Ghana. You go to their markets, women are in charge of their markets. Women are in charge of the change purse, right? So if I'm a fisherman, I do fish, right? And my wife is in the market, she's selling the fish, right? What's my job? Catching the fish. I'm catching the fish. I'm giving her, do what you will, sell what you can, do what you can. There's no question of, well, I rule my wife because I catch the fish. Well, I rule my husband because I got no. That's a fight that we never fought until we got to these shores, right? And so for argument's sake, let me use myself as an instance, right? I always made more money than my wife, right? But there was a time I was unemployed. So if I'm unemployed, right, that and my wife is making good, decent money, does that makes me less of a man? Does that make me, I can't have a say in my home because what defines me as a man is how much money I make in my dick. Like I was looking at a documentary of Queen Nzinga, and everyone knows the story of Queen Nzinga. Her father knew that she was strong, that she was well more fitted to rule. But why? They had at that time, which was a bad ideology. Well, you're older and you're the man, so you rule. What did her brother do? Got fucked over by the Portuguese. And who rode on her people into victory? Queen Nzinga. So I think we need to step back, redefine what is masculine, what is African masculinity, because this whole, well, my woman makes more than me, so oh my gosh, oh I'm less of a man. Well, I make more than her, so you gotta listen to me. Like, no, that's not how it works. That's not how it works in my home. And far as what I look towards history, as far as like what history says, right? There's no paradigm in African culture where, you know what I'm saying, where you have just the woman is just, man is just running rampant and the women have no say, as far as I know. There are probably some societies, but as a whole, the women are revered. The women are revered. And I'll yield the mic.
Yeah, I think that's kind of I think that's a part of the point, in that we don't want the West's bullshit really infringing upon us, especially on the continent where that's not a thing quite yet. And hopefully it's never fully engaged or embraced. But yeah, we are in a system that breeds a lot of what Kofi just mentioned. It breeds that kind of thing. You need money, you need resources, just to get through it. And it's to the point now, these folks created a economy where you need both people in the house pretty much earning. And once that starts to happen, especially based on the West example, it becomes competitive between man and woman. It becomes a bunch of one-upsmanship and all that kind of stuff. So, and the discussion we're having really is, we don't want that shit. We in America, we kind of under their shit. It is what it is. But do we want that in our home base in the continent? No, I would say resoundingly, no. You don't want that. And it goes just to tie this all back to the prompt. It goes back to the idea of, if you're not careful, and I'm glad Buana kind of said this, if you don't train your minds up, which is why we have these kinds of conversations, if you're not training your mind up to resist the cultural import as you bring in the technological import, you're going to end up with the same problems that you see with black folks out here, like in America. We don't want that, because like I mentioned last time I spoke during this prompt, that's what leads to all the psychoses and the mental health, the other mental health issues, the medical issues. Like, that's what's killing us. We got to get out of this. And as Afro-Native World said earlier, we really got to operate on an African paradigm. So, which means that we got to be protective. Okay, you want to bring in electric cars or some shit? Yeah, bring it in, but please keep that mentality of those folks, particularly in America, and America is really the spokesman now of the whole shit. You want to keep that away. You want to protect against that stuff. Does anyone else want to add any last thoughts here?
Buana, what did you say you wanted me to address?
Oh goodness, man. The issue of the private relationship, not in terms of women and men going outside of the home and working, in terms of the roles expected of men and women now, because now the roles of men in terms of the social contract has changed, where women back in the day, even though they went outside of the homes and worked, as our grandmothers and great grandmothers did in the fields. Yes, they work hard just like the men did, but when they came back, they had specific rules they took on when they came back. A woman has a woman's role, a man has a manly role. But now, in our homes now, since that social dynamic has changed, because you could have a
Buana, I
situation
know
where
I'm cutting you off. What role? Can you please specify what those roles were?
a man had the role of governance, of instructing, of guiding, of pointing to, you know what I mean, of saying this is how the house is going to be run today. A man had the role of not rearing, but just being the last say. You know, if things go wrong in the home, they go to the dad to ask for instruction and guidance. You know, that was the mentality back in the day. Now the mentality now is a little bit different. You know, but what is I'm
So the
saying?
woman
What
has
is
no
expected?
say. So the woman has no say.
That's extreme. I never said I had no say. I'm saying that
But you said he okay.
Even
So
if the
I
woman
would
had
just say that
even if the woman had say, the last say would go to dad. The last
right,
say. Dad
he would
had
be
the
the
basic.
last. Okay, so
Absolutely.
let me say this. I think that we can't be so rigid in our thinking. I think that we have to adjust. And I'll be real with you. I think a lot of women have a problem with this, right? Because a lot of women, truth be told, don't always have a problem with the man leads, because that takes a lot of stress and pressure off of them, right? A lot of women don't want to have to do too much of the thinking, or they just want to say, okay, you take care of it. And I'll be like, but I think that we have to really adjust to our environment, right? So this, because times are different, right? You can't be where the roles of the woman are just so stringent, where she got to do this because she's a woman, and you got to do this because you're the man, right? There might be some times where if your lady has to work, you might have to make dinner for them kids. You know, that might just have to be what it is. It might be a time where she might have to take the trash out. It might be a time where the two of you guys might have to sit down and come to an accord on something, instead of you just saying, "I'm the man. That's how it's gonna go." Type of situation. It's just gonna have to adjust. I think that sometimes we're so caught up on what these roles are, and I'm saying this in air quotes, because who made these roles? Who sat down? Did Moses come down from Mount Sinai with the 10 Commandments and say, "Thou shalt not, you as woman, thou shalt not take out the garbage," or "Man, thou shalt not cook dinner"? Who came up with these ideas, and why are these ideas so written in stone where we can't be more flexible and do what's best for our homes and our families and our
Yes.
communities?
Yes, and I hear that, and in a perfect world, I hear that. The Trigger Happy talks about balance. But here's the truth. Black Steel, and you know this just as I do. If something goes wrong in your home, right? Something goes wrong, God forbid. Ultimately, people are gonna look at you and say, "What happened?" They're gonna look at you. If
That's not true.
if that is a fact, come on, Kofi,
Not in every instance.
y'all are selling fairy tales, and I try to keep it real.
Real quick. Give me 20 seconds. You're making an assumption right now. You're in the background saying that men make better decisions, are better leaders, and are flawless in their decision making. There are some things that men aren't good at when it comes to certain things that a woman would be good at. Like, take for instance, like finances, right? I don't know how to spend money well. I get the biggest, best thing, whatever. My wife knows how to shop, knows how to get the good quality stuff for this, that. When I first met her, that's one of the things that was on my list that I didn't know need to be on my list as looking for a partner. So I'm not supposed to say, "Oh, you're a woman. I don't care if I'm saving 30, 40%. What I say goes." That'll make me an asshole. That's why I gave the example of Queen Nzinga. She had brothers where that was there, but they made shit decisions. So I'm saying this to say, if it should be based upon the person's ability. as far as like depending on what is with how they make that decision. So it's like you're saying in the end or be all. Well, if daddy had the last decision, had the last decisive thing, then yeah, then it would be daddy's fault, right? Especially if mommy said, well, no, we should have went left, and daddy said went right. Saying men are flawed just as women are. That's why when you say, oh, they're looking at daddy, well, if daddy says he knows everything, then yeah, you're going to take the blame as well as the praise.
So let's go with the mommy say principle. And I'm not trying to disrespect the sisters. Forgive me, Brother Bakari, because I am not attacking the sisters. I am not doing that. But I go 70% of the households right now are governed by females. Our households are governed by females. What is the effect of that? Versus in the past when the houses were governed by men. What is the effect of 70% of our households being governed by women? Is that a better situation, or is it you see a decline in our community based on that governance?
So let me ask:
there was a union. It wasn't a man. You're assuming the man made all the decisions. That there was a union. There were two people. It wasn't. You're assuming that the man made all decisions. The woman just bowed her head down and said, "Whatever you say."
So, Buana, are these women-led house? Are the men in the home, or the men outside?
No, the men who are in the home are the boys, are the children, are the male children. The men who was with them left. So now you have the female governing the men, the little boy who's gonna grow up to be a man, and a little girl who's going to grow up to be a female. This is the governance right now. Is this better? Have you seen a better result?
So it's definitely not better because it's not better because first of all, you're going from two incomes to one income, right? And I think that even though I think that men in the household contribute a great deal, just like women in those households contribute a great deal. I'm just not sure their contributions have to go along strict gender lines, right? I think that we all contribute in whatever way we can. I've seen, for some people, that they would hate to have their woman mow the yard, cut the grass. And I've seen situations where women go outside and she cut the grass, and the man has the weed whacker and he's fertilized. They feel they work as a team. So I guess it really depends on what works best for your household. But I would say overall, women-led households are a decline because you have one person trying to do two jobs, which is not fair to that one person.
Not only that, the elephant in the room is that women can't raise a man to be a man. There is a shortfall. Now, you would always give me the extremes or some examples where you see in great results of a women-led household in terms of a young boy and her raising a man. For the most part, women can't train a man how to be a man. You're putting her out of her scope and frame of reference, understanding the things, and I'm thinking that the result is, and this is the truth, the result is most black men, 14 to 44, you know how they die? They die through homicide. Why? Because you're dealing with a bunch of emotional men. You're dealing with a bunch of emotional men raising homes by emotional head. The head of the home is the female. I expect that result. I expect them not to think in a reasonable, rational way. I expect
toxic masculinity, sir. That's toxic masculinity.
I know I'm gonna get it. I know I'm gonna get it. Whoever's listening, I know I can get attacked. But I'm being honest. I'm just saying, y'all can disagree, but I'm saying, man.
I think most people around these parts have said it that women can't raise men. I think that's a common thing said in these kind of spaces. I've heard several people, not just one, I've heard several people say it in the past. So I think that's kind of agreed upon thing. So it's weird to me if someone wants to push back against that today, because that's what we've been saying for however long now. I think Buana is saying that there's based on his questions to Black Steel, I think Buana's kind of saying that the personal relationships are not being affected by what's happening externally, and I tend to disagree. I think what happens externally always seeps back in. I think if a woman is out here busting her ass working a bunch of hours and whatnot, that's going to affect the internals of the relationship behind closed doors. That's going to affect that too. She's tired. She ain't trying to just wash the whole household clothes. She's tired, legit. I get it. What's going on in South Korea here might be an extreme case, but that's a case that we ultimately don't want to see occur in our home continent. Trigger says, I think if I'm being fair, we can't judge these instances of household arrangements when our people live under discriminatory ecosystems of neocolonialism. He says at the end of the day, too, child rearing can't just be nuclear but communal. I agree with that, too. The community had to be involved, not only just the parents, which is why we can't take their values. That's well said, too. We're not talking about that. In this system that we have out here, we're not really living communally at all. And if we are somewhat communal, it's somewhat superficial. Yeah, I'll heal you up. I'll heal up cousin over there. I'll heal up so and so. But it's not like what we have on the continent, or even what we have in the Caribbean, where the grandmother's house in them is like central to your life. Aunts and uncles cousins are central to your life. We're not talking about that. So you want to take that away from the continent? No, I think that's a bad idea. Afro-Native World says no men can raise or rear daughters. That's a mama's rule. I agree with that too. I don't think a single dad can really raise a woman. It doesn't make sense. How is he going to connect to that? To that thing that this young lady will need to become a woman. Is there any last thoughts on this prompt? All right, well, that's the show for this week. Before anyone leaves the panel, I want you guys to shout out something positive you saw or experienced or heard of during the week. Let's start with Kofi. Kofi, what say you?
Nothing. I just want to give again shout out to the panel. Again, thanks for everyone that supported me with the contribute to the documentary that I did on my channel, and pretty much just keep pushing the message of Black empowerment, and Africanism on our people. We just need to wake our people up in any way, shape, or form. And we just need to continue to plant that seed and just converse with like-minded people. I enjoyed the show.
Appreciate you, Kofi. Make sure you guys check out Kofi's channel. Him, Buana, Brother Bakari. I forgot the sister's name. It might be Lynn.
It was Nick. Nick. It was Nick, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, Nick. Sorry, Nick. It was Nick. Had a good conversation when they did part 2. I was in the chat this time. I was there for part 1. I was on the panel with those same folks. It was a good time. You guys should check it out. Looking at the Caribbean contributions in building America, particularly the Florida area, Miami and whatnot. So you guys check that out. With that said, let me hear from Black Steel. Black Steel, what would you like to shout out this week?
I want to shout out the South Sudan Olympic basketball team. They almost beat the U.S. team by 1 point. That was something that was Trigger happy. That was something that was inspiring to me. Go South Sudan. I want to shout out the people of Yemen. Yemen just sent a drone attack to Tel Aviv. It killed explosion in Tel Aviv. Israel just bombed them, but the Yemeni people, they say they're willing to stand with their Palestinian brothers. That the bombs they take are being dropped on Gaza. So it looks like we're getting ready for World War III. If we are, it's been nice knowing y'all. I love y'all. If not, I'll see y'all next week.
Appreciate that, Black Steel. Afro World asks, is Kofi is from Miami too? No, Kofi is not. Kofi, I guess it's okay for me to say because he says it. Kofi is from Guyana, close to you there, Afro Native World, who lives in New York. So, but it was good to have that discussion, especially with the young lady Nick, who is from Florida, who's a Black American from Florida. Real good conversation, Brother Bakari them and Boylan did a real good job. So shout out to Kofi for that in that conversation. Trigger Happy also did shout out South Sudan. They almost beat Team USA today. Lost by 1 point. One of the guys he says is African American. And Brother Bakari was talking about this recently too, about Embiid and stuff. Embiid is playing, he's from what, Cameroon? And playing with the U.S. team, and that's kind of shameful. That's kind of shameful. Why go build up go and play with your team and build that up? You know, one thing I give Klay Thompson them credit for, and Klay and them is some family to me too. They go back home and play. They go back to the Bahamas and try help that team qualify. We almost qualified this year. You know what I mean? With Ayton and them playing, Buddy Hield coming back and playing, like, and Klay is not born in the Bahamas. My man Gordon is not born in the Bahamas. His mother's a Bahamian. Klay's dad is a Bahamian. But they said, "Shit, I could go and play for this country over here and bring good things." I appreciate that, man. So shout out to them for that too. Anthony, what would you like to shout out this week, brother?
Yeah, man. They kind of took my shine a little bit, man. I watched the game, man. I wanted South Sudan to win the game so bad. I mean, I was just cheering, man. I wanted them to win. You know what I'm saying? But not only that, I want to give a shout out to it's this brother, man. He got a YouTube channel. He's a Haitian brother. His name is he goes by the handle of Nefakari T. Desalines. I don't know if y'all heard of him.
Yeah,
we always play this video, bro.
Yeah, man. You know, I be on it, man. I be checking him, man. The brother bad, man. He bad. And my other shout out was I watched the documentary, Kofi's documentary, man. And I thought it was fantastic, man. I loved every minute of it, and I want to give a shout out to Kofi for the documentary, man.
Appreciate that, Anthony. Last but not least, let's get the shout out from Buana. Buana, what do you want to shout out this week?
It's interesting. Yeah, it's interesting because I've been listening to y'all Black heathens talk about giving shout outs, and y'all next president was almost shot, and y'all didn't give a shout out to say, like, thank God he didn't get his head blown off. But that's nice.
Man, we don't give a damn about that honky, man.
Especially Brother Bakari. I don't understand how y'all ain't giving praises to the fact that
we don't give a damn about that honky.
Anyways, shout out to Abraham Jory. You know, he is actually doing a good job in Burkina Faso, and that is spreading like a virus through the continent right now. I hope he hold to form, you know, because it's difficult right now. I know they accuse him for being anti-LGBT. That's the latest one. That's the latest one, Anthony. They accusing him of being anti-LGBT. Of course, he anti-LGBT. Needless to say, you know, that brother is under enormous pressure right now, and like I said, I hope he hold his position. Him and the other brothers in the Sahel region. It's getting kind of sticky. Shout out to my Haitian brothers. We haven't forgotten y'all. We know the Kenyans down there doing their devilishment, you know, at the behest of the United States government. But just hold to form. You know, you all stick together and do what y'all got to do to keep it together. We know the media ain't paying attention to y'all, but we can pay attention to y'all, and we sending out love to the Haitian people in trying to hold that country together. You know, and shout out to the brothers for giving great contributions tonight. You know, big up to everyone who contributed and gave good contributions, man. I'll leave it there.
Yeah, them Kenyans are getting packed up by them Haitian gangs too, by the way. You know, shout out to everyone who's here tonight. You know, it says a lot about Ibrahim Traore and them that most of the shout outs are centered around them. I want to shout out something I saw. It was really 2 weeks ago, but I wasn't here last week. Again, my apologies. Ibrahim and them are printing their own textbooks. That is a powerful move. That is what the early African independence leaders kind of dropped the ball on. If you want to get that colonialism or prevent that neo-colonialism, you got to teach your people. You have to teach them their history. You have to teach them the African paradigm in your neck of the woods. You know, you have to print the books. You have to do it. Not carry over like we did in the Caribbean, where we carried over some of the same books for years, for real years. We carried over a lot of the same books and stuff. In fact, we carried over the exams, the GCE and all that shit, right? So shout out to Ibrahim and them. Shout out to Bakari in the chat who says 1 more hour. You know, I mentioned this before. We used to be here till 2 o'clock in the morning. I don't mind going till 12, but we got to get the numbers up to go to 12. We got to get the comments up even a little bit more than 1 or 2 people commenting per topic. When that happens, when we get the numbers up a little bit, we get the conversations, you know, with more people involved, we can do that. Like, one of the things I'm studying is that I rarely see, besides Provide Triggers who might be listening behind the scenes and the matron, I don't see too many women commenting in the chat. You got to get that up, man. So shout out to Black women too. You guys can be a part of the conversation instead of us having these one-sided conversations where we don't have the Black woman aspect of it. You know what I mean? Anyway, that's my rant for tonight. We'll be back next week unless something comes up. We should be back next week. I'll have to see. I'll let you guys know during the week.
Hey, Coco.
Yeah.
I just want to say one thing before you leave. Remember you was talking about how Burkina Faso is now doing their own textbooks. Well, President Traore also did something else. He also passed some kind of legislation to normalize African hair, like for women, but they wear their natural hair, they braids, and also he passed legislation against skin bleaching.
Yeah, Buana mentioned that earlier. Yeah, good stuff. So now that I think about it, I might not be here next week. I'll let you guys know during the week in advance. In any event, we'll be back the week after. But yeah, join the Discord. Check out all the other shows on KWAZ Radio. It's been nice talking to you guys. You guys take care. I'll see you soon. Peace.
Thanks for listening to the Bitter Medicine Podcast with your host, Koku. If you like what you just heard, we hope you'll pass along our web address, bittermedicineblogs.com, to your friends and colleagues, and share our show to all your social media. Be sure to check out our archive section on our website for previous podcasts. This has been a KWAZ radio production. Join us next time for another session of the Bitter Medicine Podcast. Follow us on Facebook at Bitter Medicine Show, Twitter, Bitter Meds, Tumblr, Bitter Meds, Instagram, Bitter Medicine.